Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday evening. It is time once again for us to talk anime and all good things. Like that there-ish. So, good to see y'all.
Hello
Likewise.
again.
Yeah. We're talking about Summer Wars here in just a moment. Just wanted to say hi to everyone in the chat. Hey, Ginger.
Yay.
Hey, John Reiher. Different John. Lots of folks in the chat today because Summer Wars is quite a film. Let's just jump right into it. Why not? I mean, let's just do the thing.
Do the thing. Do the
Let's get to the wars that happened in the summer.
Yes. So Summer Wars is Mamoru Hosoda's fourth film, technically. He did two of the Digimon movies, and if you've seen one of them, you'll recognize it here, as this is almost a remake of that film. And then he made The Girl Who Lived Through Time, his first kind of non-franchise film, which we will probably get to one of these weeks, because that's a fun experience. And that was the one that kind of surprised everyone. It's like, oh, he can do like a whole self-contained 90-minute movie, and this is entertaining and it's fun and so forth. Whereas Summer Wars, I think, really upped the bar to a great extent for Hosoda. And so this is Summer Wars.
Well, it's almost a 2-hour extravaganza.
Yeah.
It's like
it is long.
It was not what I expected at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And so let's talk about how it starts, because that's one of the things I always find kind of interesting about these things. Because it starts with an explanation of the digital world that is central to the story.
Well, when I first started it, I was like, oh, it's an ad, and I actually fast forward about a minute, and I was just like, oh no, this is part of the movie. Okay, sorry.
Steve just shaves off time. I don't have time. Don't 2 hours to watch this.
7 minutes gone.
Well, that's one of the things is I'm not, I think a lot of scriptwriters would advise against something like this, where instead of jumping into the action, instead of getting the audience into it very quickly, we start with this several minute long thing that's basically like an ad for, definitely not Facebook. Which is this sort of ubiquitous digital world.
The Land of Oz.
Land of Oz. Which I had a difficult time when I first watched it because I was always thinking of Gundam Wing. Oz is one of the major factions in Gundam Wing, so they're constantly talking about, Oz is about to attack. And I'm like, wait, what? And no, not that Oz.
No.
Well, it turns out that's kind of
Things happen. And part of it, too, I think, also is there's an element of explaining kind of to the audience what a digital environment is and kind of what the stakes are. The idea that this is not just some site out there somewhere.
Right.
That this is an interconnected service. Which is why I love all the marketing speak of many major corporations have outposts here. And you can do all your banking and all your shopping. Isn't it wonderful?
Isn't it wonderful?
Government
Nothing bad
agencies
will
have
happen here.
desks available for services rendered. Yeah, I'm like, okay. And
So,
it's very interesting. It's 2004, I think this film is.
yeah.
And people have their usual Japanese flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the appearance of smartphones.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the few and far between that had any kind of smartphone technology in 2004.
Yeah.
So when I was watching this, some of the first once I realized it was not an ad, and I was
Steve's
watching.
trying to sign up. Oh, I like this.
So I want this. I want where? So as I was watching it and how the structure of it, the face and then the kind of the angel thing on the top of that, I really got an Evangelion kind of a little bit of a vibe by that, and I felt that, and as it was going through the marketplace and was going through all the functions, hey, you can do this, that, and the other thing. It reminded me, I don't know how many of you all have seen this movie, but Hackers back in 1994, 95. where they kind of just show you what they think is the representation of the digital world. And and that they don't do the explanation like this. They just kind of just show you like when people are and throughout the entire movie here, it really did remind me of Hackers, because whenever they decide to go into the virtual world in Hackers, it's this total different vision that's happening there. So that it's kind of like interpreted. So as you're watching these things happen in the movie in Summer Wars, it's like, okay, everything's freeform moving, but is that really interpretation? Because I love how it goes from that to the people on the actual phones where their character avatars really do look like 6-bit, 8-bit figures, or like but they're fluid in this not imaginary, but what people might think is going on in the land of Oz.
It's something anime has always been very good at, is providing sort of visual representations of things that aren't exactly that thing, but saying, here's an easy way of wrapping your head around this thing.
Right.
Lane famously has The Wired, where that's not how it actually is, but totally.
I can't imagine the type of organizing that space to look like it does, to do the things that it does, would probably cause people's heads to explode trying to program it. I'm imagining. Well, which Brent, you could speak to that.
It's one of the fascinating things about it. One of the things they did that's really smart is how clean it is. They didn't try to do, and again, in all of these live action movies, they always do the giant spread of all of the 3D buildings that you're sort of flying through and all that kind of stuff and all that detail. Whereas this is much cleaner, which means it's easier to render. So it's not trying to do all that kind of stuff, and so you can actually get more detail, you get more bits, flying around, because they're each just a little purple cube or whatever.
Right.
Which I think was very
well,
clever.
like when they were talking about sports.
Yeah.
There was not some kind of crazy amalgam of sports things in a space. It was a distinctly rendered platform that had that sport, and they were layered in distinct form.
Yeah.
So it's I imagine that probably was it was probably, I'm guessing, easier to do it that way than to have some kind of giant, flat scape and then all that stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
It was beautifully done though.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can copy, they built one stadium, duplicated it, rounded the corners of that one, duplicated that, and so it's just doing that thing, tweak the colors.
Copy paste.
And thank you, Ginger. You're right. The movie was released in 2009. I just checked. I was thinking 2004.
Oh, I was thinking 2004 too.
Yeah, for some reason. So yeah, about 12 years old, still. And so
still good technology for 12 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also for again, this is not a big budget Hollywood movie, right? They don't have massive resources to throw at this.
Oh yeah, August 1st, 2009.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
And then you kind of start intercutting between the digital world and the real world, and you get this very anime, shot of a girl on a bicycle, racing along. You're like, oh right, that's what this movie is. It's not going to look like that the entire time.
If only she had a piece of toast in her mouth.
Yes,
I would have totally done it.
I was waiting for that, I'll be honest. And then Natsuki bangs open this door, and again, I love the detail here. And Steve, you mentioned Evangelion, and one of the things Evangelion does so well is all of those sort of details of the environment, of post-it notes on things and so forth, and this very much has that feel. I like, for example, that the sign on the door has been renamed 3 times. Because once it was this room, now it's this, now it's that. Just very very tough, and it tells you a lot, right? These are not people going to some elite high school. These are very sort of middle class, average kind of people. And you get your characters, and you get your first kind of hint of what's going on here, where you get Natsuki asking them for this favor. And
hi.
And I love how you then realize much later on that it's what you think is going on in this scene is not quite what's going on in this scene.
Yeah.
And she comes across as kind of the, cute girl who just wants some help, but there's more to it than that. Our hero here is being played a little bit.
Just a little.
But I like the way that they worked the overall plot to make this pivot point an absolutely random thing.
Yes.
Because it's two people, one question, 50-50 chance.
Yep.
And it's like, so it's not, immediately come in and be like, hey, I need you to do this thing. And it's like, yes, I understand it's a script. It's nothing chance about it. But it's nice that it's played in a fashion that they address later on, being like, wow, if I hadn't said yes, who knows what would have happened.
In fact, they say later on the phone that they played, I think, rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
How it would go. So, yeah, totally. And the fact that, again, you don't know anything about your hero yet. Right. He's just being pulled along on this thing where
except for their junior administrators on like a ginormous global platform. Like, how do these high school kids get this thing?
That's one thing I really like. Is that is very realistic. Is that you need tons of moderators on a platform like this. So you hire tons and tons of people part time to do little bits and pieces here and there. And everyone has, their little slice of it that they're doing. And, they're probably checking logs for, the backgammon games all day, just to make sure that nothing weird is going, whatever.
Okay. To make sure that the chat is staying in the community standards. Throw that phrase out.
Exactly. And then you get an action scene with King Kazuma. And this lovingly animated action scene, including a fight with a giant lobster for no reason.
I think it's a mechanical lobster, because when it cracks the shell, isn't it all like mechanical inside too?
I think so. But it's pretty awesome. And then again, you kind of cut to just them meeting up, and again in a very normal place, just a train station. And this gets to why I think Summer Wars is really kind of a masterclass in pacing and in tone, because the pace changes so much in this movie, but it never feels out of place.
Right.
It can be fast, it can be slow, all sorts of stuff, and we're intercutting between all this stuff, and it's all going to come together at some point, but it hasn't yet. And again,
it is very nice for a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
That even in the moments where it's not blinding action going on, you're getting so much parts of stuff starting to fall into orbit to each other that you're like, okay, I understand what's happening. But you're not bored by it.
Right.
It's not one where it's like, okay, they're not doing anything. I'm just going to pause it and go get something to drink, and I'll come back. It's like it keeps you engaged enough in the way that it sort of trickles along with some of the action preface before it happens. This
is one of the things I noticed this time around is, she has all this stuff with her. And that is the audience's hint that, they're going to see a bunch of people. These are all gifts, which I hadn't connected the first time. Like, why is she bringing all these toys along with her? She's like
the obligation gifts.
Right. It's the obligation gifts. Like, oh, gotcha.
Omiyage?
Omiyage. And you get the Dr. Pepper right there. Whatever.
Dr. Pepper, Dell, Mazda,
and the tea. That green tea is very much
the Ulcha green tea. Yes, it is. Yep. So it's like they went out and they got sponsorship. Good on them.
And then again, you have this long scene of just the two of them on the train, separated, talking back and forth, as you get the hint as to why Kenji is a little unusual in many senses.
So I'm not gonna lie. At one point, when he was on the train trying to describe his life, I was just like, God, is he on the spectrum?
yeah, absolutely.
I was like, oh, okay.
He's just nervous.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an aspect of that to him. He's definitely, he definitely has difficulty like presenting, calmly to other people.
Right.
I'd probably call it, strong introversion, maybe. I don't know. But I also like little things like he's constantly glancing around in this scene, because like he doesn't want to look at her, but he doesn't want to look at his food. It's just kind of that constant glancing around that you do when you're just nervous and you don't know where to land your eyes.
Right.
You
don't want to stare at anybody else either.
Exactly.
Like, so what do you do with yourself?
Which is that very naturalistic thing. And then you start seeing, and this is where in the movie the first time I saw it, I was like, oh wow, because they start gathering family.
Yeah.
And it's just more and more family, more and more family. Every scene, there's more of them as they're getting further and further out into the country, into the boondocks.
Every conveyance has more family on it.
Yep.
Like,
and on a bus.
So when I'm watching those scenes where they start coming together, and I was at first really confused. I was just like, okay, this is her hometown. So who are these people? And at first, you have to kind of think it through, and then like, oh, okay, they're all family. And I'm like going, okay, these must be the sisters, cousins, whatever, and all the little rugrats. And I'm like going, and then there's more. And then you're like, okay, that's all right, a little lost, but okay, that's part of the family. There's more. And then you see this scene, this wonderful scene where they get off the bus and it's just like the street and you see this incline behind them and you're just like going, okay, they're somewhere in some village, whatever. And then the shot pans out after a minute, after, you figure out, and he's just like, wait, this is their house. And then you see the house and you're just like going, why is everyone riding a bus?
Yeah.
Yep. And this is something that I did not get.
When you have a giant fortress.
That was the thing I did not realize. Like, I obviously realized, okay, this is an old house. Those are the fortifications of a castle.
Castle, right.
Yep.
Which I just did not connect with the first time around. Obviously, the castle's not there anymore, but yeah, that's where she lives. Like, oh. Well, not lives, but a family, yeah, absolutely. And again, it's one of those things where you're watching, you're like, there's not a single line of dialogue telling you any of that.
Nope.
It just reveals it to you.
But it's done so well, and it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Just watching all these things doing what's going on. It's like that you don't really notice it,
right?
It's like, thank you, I appreciate that, because otherwise I'd be like. And you were talking about details. Mm-hmm. That scene you had of the door frame.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but those little symbols, at least I know in in the U.S. and like colonial moving forward, you had little symbols on doors that indicated fire protection.
Oh, yeah.
Indicated like the insurance that was held on like whatever the property and like contact information. It's like, so I saw those. I'm like, dang.
That's probably what that is. And again, it's one of those things where if you were Japanese, oh, that's from the 1920s. That's from the 1880s, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cool little details. And then you go into this cavernous house. It just
I love that house. Love it.
Goes on and on. And I love the fact that, again, very, very kind of communicating so much where it's not just a cavernous house, it's a cavernous empty house. Right? You don't have furniture everywhere. Like, people aren't using every single one of these rooms. Yeah. It's just a big space.
God, how many tatamis would that be? Holy cow! I mean, just that shot alone, it's like, what? Is that like a 20 tatami 3-part room? I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, Kenji's probably never seen that many tatami mats together in his life.
Yeah.
And then you meet Grandma. And again, just the way this movie, provides things is, okay, it's Grandma. That's fine. And then Kenji comes in, and and Natsuki reveals why he's there. He's my boyfriend, and we're engaged. What?
Yeah.
That for me would have been a moment of, I'm sorry, I have to go to the bathroom right now.
I'm sorry.
Well, I love how he's kind of like, what? Hold on.
Well, and what's great about it, too, in the scene is they keep cutting back and forth between Natsuki and her grandmom. And part of his head is always in frame. And he's always reacting delayed to whatever's going on. He says something,
yeah.
Wait, what? Cut. What?
I have expected him to start going, okay?
Right.
Okay?
¿Qué pasa, doctor?
And then you get this shot of her looking at Kenji, which becomes a theme throughout the film. And you don't know it yet, but she gives him this hard look. And once you go through the movie, you realize, oh, this is matriarch of the family stare. Who are you? Do you belong in this family or not yet?
Will you crack under my vicious authoritarian gaze?
Well, up to that point, you have this wonderful. Once it's like its own little journey as they're going through the house, and they're looking at all the stuff, and you sense history behind it, and of course I did my own little digging after the movie, about the historical stuff about it, and because there's a big sense of history, right?
Definitely.
And then she's saying, just follow my lead, don't worry about my grandma, she's scares everybody, whatever, blah blah blah. And you get to the point where she is the matriarch, and you realize this is an old family. And it's not just an old family as in the South, we've been here for 20 generations. No, this is a family that can, you get the sense that they can find their lineage, and they make that clear later on that they can find their lineage way back, and they are connected.
Yeah.
Way back.
No kidding. And you also get the hint of that in the fact that, what is she wearing? Right. You never see her in anything other than a kimono.
Yep.
Like that's tradition right there.
Yeah.
And the fact, and it's something that I only noticed now, nothing in her room, everything in her room is this higher, right? She never has to get up. She always can be, just at her table doing her things.
And if you notice, and as we see later on, in her office space, there's nothing that's like beyond maybe the 1950s.
Yeah, that phone.
Maybe 1940s. Yeah. Like there's no desktop, there's no nothing. Everything that occurs within Oz is within her understanding, but not within her experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like, wow. And yet she navigates it.
Yes.
As truly a matriarch. It's like, wow, the Empress Dowager. She sends word.
Yes.
And people get things done. It's like, dang.
Definitely be played by Dame Judi Dench in the live action version.
Could be.
Yeah.
I'd also take Helen Mirren. She did a fantastic job
absolutely,
as the queen. So.
Yes, Helen Mirren will do quite nicely.
Sorry for the sirens. Apparently someone's getting murdered.
It happens.
It's Baltimore.
And then, of course, and again, one of the things I appreciate about the movie is that Natsuki immediately apologizes. She realizes, probably not the best thing in the world to do to a guy. And so, she takes him somewhere. She explains the whole thing. Again, in lots of other anime movies, this would have been a thread all the way through where she kind of doesn't say anything about it and what's going on. No. Yeah. She fesses up.
Well, I would think that it would be important to me to know that I was engaged to her, and that
you ask too much, Steve.
I'm just saying. I come from a theater background. I need the backstory.
Yeah,
exactly.
I need the backstory.
Well, I find it also interesting that she apologizes. She bows deeply. She's very regretful. Do you notice that she doesn't give him an out?
No, not at all.
It's like,
not at all.
You're stuck
once
with
this
Sorry.
is done, then we'll say we broke up or something happened. But it's not like, I'm really sorry about this. If you're not cool with it, you could just go ahead and take off, and I'll say something happened. She's like, sorry about that, and you're stuck with it. Oh.
Yeah.
Boy, she's really. You could tell where the bloodline runs that family.
Exactly. Yeah. Wikipedia describes her as spirited.
That's a description. Yes.
Accurate word. And then again, folks start showing up, and you start seeing the various members of the family, and we start getting introduced to the baseball game. And again,
the Ueda baseball game.
Yes.
Woo, go Ueda high.
So those who aren't familiar out there watching, baseball, and particularly high school baseball championships, are a massive deal in Japan. These are things that are legitimately watched by millions and millions of people on TV. It preempts everything else. It's a big deal. And one of their own is the pitcher in the game. So obviously it's a.
Is that her son? or like just her family? Because she's the only one that's like super jazzed about it.
Yeah, I had to look this up on Wikipedia. It is her son. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed that Wikipedia list because I couldn't keep track. I'm like, going, I give up.
It's one of the things I like about it is that, again, if you walked into a giant family like this who were talking about this, nobody would tell you that, right? Just everybody would be cheering for the guy, and it's like, oh, of course, you know.
Well, it's like the sit down to dinner. That's my uncle. That's my aunt. And those are their 2 kids, and that's the husband of that person. That's the person over there. You got it?
Yeah.
Well, let's
I'm
drink.
just gonna drink.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And there we go. Introducing all of the family members. And again, I love that it's kind of the audience's reaction too of, you don't really expect me to remember all this stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
But you get that.
Yeah, I mean, look at the whole family there. Dude, how the hell can you tell who is anybody? If I was sitting there, I'd be like, mustache dude, lady who's a baseball freak, guy with glasses.
The big guy who yells a lot.
Yeah.
And again, you get all the different elements of what's going on. And again, I one of the smart things. And then somebody mentions, don't upset grandma. And you see her now at the end of the table, which you hadn't before, because she's just this constant presence. Right? She's always there, but she doesn't make herself known, which is just a wonderful element of the movie.
Well, her force of presence alone.
Yeah.
It's like...
Which she will make even more forceful later in the movie.
Oh, yes, she will. She is spry for a near-on 90-year-old woman.
Absolutely. My gosh. And then you get the speech, and I'm forgetting his name, but again, it doesn't really matter.
Uncle Mustache.
Yeah, Uncle Mustache. I think that's Monske, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that's Monske.
Yeah.
The tanned fish guy.
Yeah.
Who begins to...
That's a good one, too, tanned fish guy.
Who begins to wax rhapsodic about their history and all the different... the battles they were in and so forth, and how they were this...
The battles they lost.
Yeah,
they're all like losing battles.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost this battle, so we moved over here.
Yeah,
like
the story.
Huh? It's an honorable history, I guess.
And again, it's one of those cool things. Is there are tons of those samurai families, right? Where you just there are those who succeeded and those who didn't, and they're just one of those ones that ended up here. But they've stayed, and then again, time moves along, and Kenji meets Kazuma, right, for the first time. And again, one of those things where you're in a giant house, you're wandering around trying to find the bathroom, and you stumble across another family member, just like in a random room.
Yeah, because Cosmo was not at the dinner scene.
Nope.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, this is super like, wow, is this house big enough to have like a squatter?
Yeah.
Like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Yeah. My reaction would have been like, should you be here?
Yeah.
Like, do you live here, or did you just show up? Are you part of the house?
Yeah.
Are you a yokai? You're a yokai, aren't you?
Yeah. And Kenji just kind of showed up too. So.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that the movie just lets it be. Like, just here's a character, just moving on. We'll be back here. And what's smart about it is, in a lot of other movies, if you tried to do this, again, he'd be at the dinner table, he'd be just kind of scattered throughout. But by putting him in this specific room, you remember him. And whenever you see him again, you see the room again, you're like, oh, it's that kid. And you can kind of connect everything, which is just very smart. And you get the required by law anime nudity, and it's of a toddler. Okay. Running around. Because again, that's very, very much little kids.
Yeah, but I think it's great. It's just like, banks the corner and just goes off. It's like,
he's like, duh!
Okay. Like.
And then he goes in, and again, we kind of, we're waiting for the anime bath scene, and nope, not gonna happen. It's just Kenji.
Well, we did get a little bit of soaping,
That's
people
true.
into communal children in the communal bath being washed, but it's like nothing Nothing accidental. Oh, I know. I opened the door. Oh no! Like,
well, that's
thank you. You took the high road on that one.
That's what I really appreciate is that like he looks down, she comes out, she has the towel, and then she like ducks back, and that's all you see.
Yep.
It's like the hint, and then he goes back out, and again pacing in tone, and it's quiet as everybody is looking at this man who is petting the dog.
Wabiske.
And I love how, again, everybody is like offended that he's there, but they're not driving him away, but the dog's fine with him.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? And then they all start getting pissed off at him.
Well, you had Glasses Guy. Mm-hmm. There was a moment in there before everything started getting rolling.
Yeah.
And Glasses Guy there at the pink vest
yeah.
was holding the dog's face and going, well, you're getting old, but you're, and it's like, okay. So now you've planted that seed. The dog's old.
Yeah, exactly.
So when Wabiske shows up, it's like, okay, the dog knows. So he must have known the dog a long time because the dog's old.
Yep.
Like, okay, but nothing is like concrete about that. You just have to remember back and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, this makes some sense.
And the breadcrumbs. I also love the use of color here, where Wabiske's in the dark.
Yeah.
And on the outside, and very much,
black sheep.
Black sheep. And shot from behind.
Yeah.
You're not seeing his face. You're just seeing everyone react to him as he shows up. And Kenji's not comfortable. Even Grandma's, upset. And then he comes in and sits down and starts having a drink. And then...
Oh, did you notice something specific about that drink, by the way?
What?
At the banquet, when everybody gets introduced, and they're all like, let's drink, everybody pours everybody else's drinks. Wabiske comes in, sits down, pours his own drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we've got authority on ourselves now, don't we, here?
Yeah.
You're not going to put up with convention. You're not going to put up with tradition. This is it. You're drinking your own beer and doing your own thing. I'm like...
Well, and then they make the statement of, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, I do own the house, don't I?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. And it's got, all the discomfort, all the uncomfortable stuff.
Of Thanksgiving.
They delivered a lot of tension. Like, this is really nicely tense.
Exactly. And then Natsuki shows up and is thrilled.
Yeah.
And I just love that reaction. She's like, oh, good, uncle. And she goes over and completely oblivious to the writhing tension of the scene. Just running over and, oh, great, wonderful. And again, and I love Kenji's reaction where he gets it. He knows there's something going on here.
Right. Everybody's staring daggers is pretty good to figure out there.
She did not read the room very well.
No. She likes to write the room as opposed to read the room.
Yeah, if she was reading the room, she wouldn't have drug along this poor schlep. Like, hey, dude, come out to the family house and be
for like
uncomfortable.
3 days.
Yeah, like this will be fun for you.
Yeah. And then you get the pointer scene, basically. You always have to have the one scene where you explain everything. And this is, hey, I'm new to the family. What's going on? Let me explain.
Yeah.
But there's also a great opportunity to view the personalities of all the characters, because you have everyone together, and so I forget it, but the grandmother's daughter, she's just very measured about it, where she's like, "This is a thing that happened. It sucks," and then other people are like, "Yeah, I can't believe he did that." And other people are like, "Well, whatever,"
Yeah.
And you just get that feel. And then you get, Wabiske, Kenji, and Natsuki all playing Koi Koi together.
Yeah.
Which we'll get back to that in a little bit, because that's important. I laughed out loud at Kenji's expression on here, because I've been in this situation, plenty of times, where folks are playing the game, having a good time, and I'm just like, what, and then you...
Yeah, trying to read the rules.
I
don't understand. Well, it's also a great representation of his personality type.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
He sees a, number sequence and he starts locking in on it. So he's looking at things, in this sort of solution-based kind of way. So they're playing this game and it's like, so what do you do if you're a solution-based person? You read the instructions to work the solution. And everybody else is like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, and just very casually playing this game that clearly is the family game.
Yeah.
This is what they all play. I love the line.
I just want to play that game so I can say koi koi.
Right. And we'll get to that.
Sounds good.
I do love the fact later on that when koi koi becomes the whole thing, that somebody at some point makes the line of course this family would bet the fate of the world on koi koi. Because this is what we play all the time.
Yeah. And thank goodness they do.
Exactly. And so that scene just kind of peters out for Kenji. And I do appreciate the sort of conflicting messages there, where Natsuki is now completely ignoring Kenji.
Yeah.
And granted, she kind of has been the whole time anyway, right? Like he's just kind of there. He's done his job.
Right.
But now there's this whole romantic thing where he's like, oh, like should I feel something about this? I don't know. It's a weird situation to be in where I'm like he knows he doesn't really mean anything to Natsuki, but still having the guy in there just kind of hurts a little bit.
Well, when she apologized to him and touched his hands, and he goes like completely beet red, and it's just like, so he's now sort of orbiting like I'm kind of interested. I don't, but it's like
definitely
he's basically abandoned on this island with all these insane.
It's
and
like
no real way out.
like he shows up. The poor guy shows up. He's kind of interested in this girl anyway, and he goes and he plays along after the confession, all this stuff, and then Uncle shows up. And she's all over this guy, and suddenly he's just like, scary grandma, family I can't figure out, what the hell is this game? Everyone's drinking. The dog I'm even confused by. I'm just gonna sit over in the corner, okay? Is that all right if I just sit in the corner? He's just like, for me, this is actually a problem I have with the movie, is that for periodically there were points, not just then, but like later on, in particular in the movie, where he's no longer really part of the movie. He's, to me, his character arc is shunted off.
Yeah.
And he's come back, and at the end of the movie, I feel he's just being brought in for a specific thing to do the code thing, and, that kind of stuff. And he's really there to start it and to end it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it kind of falls apart, and then becomes about, which is fine, which is about the family and stuff. But I just feel like he kind of got shortchanged because he really is pushed to the background during the movie. So I thought that was kind of for me, that was a little bit jarring. It was like, I thought this movie was about this guy.
Sure.
So it's kind of not.
Yeah. And it's tough in a movie like this where there are so many characters, and there is so much to get across, that I can see one, not intentionally, just kind of this character not being part of the plot for a while because there's so many other things to kind of get to. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. He does just kind of fade into the background for a long time.
Well, I think also for a chunk of it, he's playing the part of the sort of the everyman that we would be if we were there.
Yeah.
And
he's
it's
the
like
audience
it's like you're saying, Steve, it's like he is helping you to conduit into this thing, and then once they've got the sort of the motion going, they can say, okay, well now you're fully inserted, so we can move him to the left a little, go over there, and now we're the omnipotent vision of what's going on in this family, and then he'll segue back in when we're ready.
But not before he gets the code and decodes the code. And this is one of the problems I had with the movie initially when this plot point came up. Is this idea that he would solve the code and be the code breaker and be the one to figure all this out. But they did address it later. But yeah, he does sit there and do all this, and then we get this very Miyazaki moment. And I believe this is kind of Hosoda making a statement here, where we have the lovely reflections in the water and the little grasshopper flying. Very Totoro moment. She's kind of saying, "I can do that too." I can have these quiet nature moments too. And the flowers.
Somebody's doing the beautiful mind thing.
Yeah, exactly. We get to see his scribbled words. This is also clever. Hosoda, I'm sure, knew this would be an international film. Like, it would go outside Japan.
Right.
And so the passwords and so forth are in English, as are most websites, right? Like the default language English and the blog and all that kind of stuff. So I like the fact that when you see like passwords and stuff, you see the Latin characters. And so anyone in the world knows, oh, AE, the number 8, right? And it's just much more universal in that way, which is kind of smart.
I like his use of uppercase and lowercase letters as well.
Yes, exactly.
It's just like, wow.
Also, something I just noticed is that the email address is LeetSpeak for Love Machine. Applause there.
I love the name of the program.
Love Machine.
Love Machine.
It is. That
You're
is,
like, wow.
and again, that is just such oddball programmer initial names he got threw together and then just we called it. Okay.
Yeah, go Love Machine.
Whatever. Right.
Love Machine.
It's fine.
Well, anytime you watch your like Norton or Symantec cycle through things, it's like the names of some of the viruses that they're checking for are like just like what the hell? And there's somebody named that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sinifu Stealer or something. I'm like, okay, this is obviously on the inside track for all these people.
And then Kenji gets woken up to discover he's a super hacker. Congratulations. I love
An internationally known super hacker.
I love the two little Detective Conans coming in there and grabbing him and pulling him out.
You're the criminal.
And we find Oz all defaced and all the problems going on. And again, I appreciate that because we know later on in the movie this gets very serious. But again, it's when somebody breaks in, initially it doesn't seem that bad. It's just what locks can I get into? What things can I change? It's kind of playing around with things, which again is very, very realistic. Whereupon, again, he kind of freaks out. His password doesn't work. He has to beg Ozma for use of his account. And we get the tension start to ratchet back up after that. Those lovely, quiet summer night moments. As you realize something big has happened, and then I go, some idiot cracked this code last night. What dumb person would do that? He's like, I actually did.
Yeah.
That, I'm the idiot. And again, something I noticed this time, Cosmo goes, "Wait, you did that?" And it's just this quick little moment, and you realize, oh, Cosmo, he keyed into that. There's some respect there. So he goes into Oz. We get the whole attempt to fight him, which again does not work.
Goes poorly.
Yeah, goes poorly. Very poorly. Until King Cosmo shows up. And I do love, and they hired a fight choreographer for this movie. Not a fight. They hired a fight animation director for this movie. Somebody to literally think how these fight sequences should look, and oh my gosh, just the dynamism of those is just fantastic.
King Cosmo is just cool.
Yeah, he is absolutely
just a cool character.
Cool character. I love the half-lidded eyes all the time. Perfect. And I also love, and again, one of those things where it is very much a online avatar design, right? It's this mishmash of different things where, obviously he got that red jacket at some point. Obviously he got that, and he liked the goggles, and whatever. And it kind of throws that. So, a good question, Captain Laser Eyes. How did the real-life Kung Fu translate to typing on a keyboard? It's hinted at the movie that it's more agility training, right? It's getting his fingers used to that. It's getting his body used to being able to move quickly, as opposed to actually using kung fu moves in the game necessarily. But yeah, and then it doesn't work. And I also really appreciate how they show Cosmo here, how he is very much a teenager. How he's just, what is the solution to this? it's to punch him in the face repeatedly.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't work, he gets really pissed off and like bangs the keyboard. Like, yeah.
And yet he still has control, because when
He
the
does.
little Chibiskes come running in and are like, "What are you doing? Can we play?"
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw this, I was just like, okay, Cosmo's gonna whip around and just like lay him out,
And
and then at the minute he lays him out, he's gonna get something's gonna happen in the game, and yet
Right.
he's got enough control and enough obvious experience with these kids like all over everywhere that he just keeps rolling with it. I'm like, cool, okay.
he was probably going, God damn, I'm gonna have to find another room. Freaking castle.
I found this place. It
Found
was
me.
my secret place, and now they're here.
This was my happy place.
Little bastards.
Yep.
Oh, I meant to call out to the morning glories that are sitting on the porch while he is doing his notations, or cracking the code. That I looked that up because I'm like, why was the morning glory thing? Morning glories, sun comes up, morning glories are opening, grandma's tending morning glories. I'm like, what is this? And it's like, the meaning of morning glory and flowers is mortality and love, the essence of life and how short it is. I'm like, wow.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Wow. I did not know that. Yes.
Very good. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's what do we know? You see something
Right.
frequently enough, it means something. And I'm like, what is the obsession with morning glories? I love them. They grow on the fence out in front of the house, and that's totally cool. But why is it here? This is a very specific reason you've got this here for something.
Yep.
So,
Sure enough.
and there it was.
And and you get the slightly inappropriate moment with Wabasuke, and the little girl, and what's on your phone, which I did laugh at. I'll admit. What you looking at? Girls with big boobs. As he's looking at a contract,
Yeah.
And then he like flips it, and she's like, ah. But
That's the right you get as an uncle.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Is to
yeah,
like
that's-
say like these terrible like weird things. I think I told you before. My nieces go to Catholic school, and they are they're very good. They don't cuss. They don't have anything else. So I played "You Have to Fight for the Right to Party" by and my sister about killed me. But I'm the uncle. I can do that. It's just fun to do. Like, here's something that'll warp your mind. Woohoo!
I have a story from Hayao Miyazaki's most recent book, which we will not get into right now, but perhaps later.
After 10
talks about
o'clock.
that. Oh, and not that bad, but kind of like, wow, they survived that. Great.
Hey Goro, go run in traffic. Sweet.
Kinda.
Nice.
Anyway, so yeah, then Kenji walks in and he's like, "Boy, I'm glad I dodged that." Oh, they all know.
Yeah.
And of course, Shoto runs in immediately with the wanted poster. I love Shoto because he is the annoying relative. The guy who won't let go. Nobody really likes him, but he's family. What do you do?
And he's so excited to be a police officer.
Exactly.
He's really into it. With his RX-7. Like his full on, like I've never seen an RX-7 kitted out by a police officer like that.
Somebody watched a lot of Initial D as a kid. I
Something.
And then this wonderful, very anime moment where everyone crowds in and they're like, we found out you're not actually, from Tokyo U. You're not actually doing all this stuff, and you lied to Natsuki.
You lied.
Yeah, I have the family registry. Wham! Like, how the hell did you get that, lady?
And at which point, if it was me, I probably would have been like, "Oh yeah, talk to her."
Which becomes
She's the one who set this
the
up.
next thing, exactly, where they're like, "Oh, okay, this is what happened." All the adults very pissed off at the
Rammed
teenagers.
in.
Yep. And then dealing with the aftermath of all that, and then discovering, and this is where it gets a little creepy, that these are all descriptions of Wabasuke, and that Natsuki's had a thing for Wabasuke for a very long time. And there's some lines in the movie where it's like, "Oh yeah, and didn't she write that essay in school about my uncle?" It's like, "Oh."
My uncle and I
my uncle
married
and I,
or something like that, or
it's like,
elementary school. Yeah.
And again, in fairness, in the movie, she's horrified that anyone knows that she, had at any point had any of these feelings. Yeah, she's rather mortified. And then again, I love the consequences where it's like, and then you are clearly a wanted criminal for hacking into this thing. They put cuffs on you and lead you away. Like, that is the thing that happens. She can't just wish that away.
It's interesting that it must be a Japanese thing, but he's got a rope attached to the cuffs, which I was like, okay. I mean, it makes total sense. You're pulling somebody along, but it's it's like, wow. Any kind of cop dramas you watch, they cuff them and then they walk behind them and like hold them by the shoulder and kind of hold the handcuffs and kind of move them forward. Well, he's like dragging him along the rope. I'm like,
Kenji's clearly a hardened criminal. Who's full of strength and vim and vigor, and is just going to bust any moment. Right? Yeah.
A flight risk, especially when they're sitting in traffic. It's like I was waiting for him after he makes the observation, like, this isn't a squad car. I'm like, aha! Now he's noticed. It's like he could probably get out. And I'm waiting for him to be like, ha! And like run down the field. No, he just sits there.
Yep. But again, I love the pacing of this, and then suddenly the movie stops as he apologizes to the grandmother. And not just apologizes, but says, I really appreciated this time. And kind of unburdens his heart to her. And which is when she realizes. Again. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. She's like, what's going on here? And she realizes, and it's one of the great things, and it's something that Hosoda is good at, is this idea of characters making bad choices because of their damage, really. Because, he didn't stop anything because he's like, I've never had this experience before, and this is really, this is kind of overwhelming to me. And I'm not used to having family members to actually, not just interact with, but who actually, like, are looking out for other people, right? And it's a sweet moment, I think. But then he, off he goes. And again, great moment, pacing. We cut back to Love Machine, who's still free, who's still doing all the things. And you realize, well, good, you've arrested Kenji. Doesn't stop any of this from happening.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the world moves on.
Right, exactly. And then the moment in the car, just sitting and sitting
and waiting
and waiting. And you start seeing all the other members of the family.
But did you see? It's like he just sits there.
Yeah, he just sits there.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like you could jump out. It's not going to get you. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere.
He even says, "Isn't that a green light?"
Right. Yeah.
The guy's just like, "Shut up."
Kenji's a good boy.
Yeah. Well, he also. I mean, he's owned up.
Yeah.
I am the one I cracked
the
code.
Well, this is the thing.
It's like, so...
Okay, so, like, yeah, exactly. If he jumps out of the car, where's he going to go? Right?
Nowhere.
Like, his face is everywhere. Like, people know what's going on. Yeah.
This is what probably the reason why he's staying in the car is because he knows everything's so screwed up with Oz right now, right? So there's all these people who are like going, I can't Facebook. Mm-hmm. Hey, that little jerk. You.
I'm safer in custody than I am outside.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tinder just went down, and I'm going to kill you.
And again, pacing, where now you get these scenes with the other members of the family trying to get there, and there's no massive sense of urgency. There's this building sense of dread of, okay, this facility is having problems. This service is having problems. It's all fixable, but it's mounting and just getting worse and worse and wider spread and wider spread.
One of the things I liked about those scenes that were leading up to the actual point of it all was that it was showing why the family is so large and why that's important.
Yeah.
And which involves the grandmother at the pivotal point,
Mm-hmm.
and why she has so much pull, and how connected she is because of the family history, and the inroads and that she has, and all these, and a lot of these, the family ranges from personal businesses like owning a fishing fleet or owning a computer store, or doing contracts like with computers, or being civil servants. Like 3 of them are civil servants, one of them's in the self-defense force. And so you have all these connections that are out there that are encouraged. So that when it happens, and when once you finally start piecing everything together and things starts going dark, literally, what does she do? What does she do? What does Grandma do? She goes on a rotary phone because honestly, she figures out, oh wow, you're they're not working, are they? So
as I say, the landline is the safest option.
So she gets on the phone and she starts doing her thing. She starts using the connections, and she starts going out there cajoling people to tells the family, you're the representative of the family, so you have to be out there. You can't just go, whatever, I'm done. You have to keep going. And so, this is the Genochi family time to shine again, just like we did in 1600.
The Battle of
Ueda. Ueda. The second Battle of Ueda, which we kind of won and lost. But anyway, here you go.
Well, I think isn't this the first point where grandmother starts getting on the phone? Oba-san starts getting on the phone, and you see Love Machine looking through, like, I'm guessing phone logs. And dials in on a symbol that you then see on the back of her kimono, the family crest. So it's like Love Machine, in the process of doing its thing, figures out she's doing something, and it can't get directly to her because it's got a rotary phone, so there's nothing you can really do. But it's now aware of her presence.
And this is one of the things that the movie doesn't let on directly, but that it is possible that Love Machine makes the connection later on. That if I shut down this service, she's in the logs for this service for this thing, and now she's out of the picture.
Yeah, because her son has the alarm set on his phone. Oh.
So who knows? But and then and so we log in. We start resolving things. Things kind of go back to normal. And then we get the food and the baseball game. Even though it was looking bad, we're okay now. It was tough for the Ueda team for a while there, and again, just I love tying that in of just as that ongoing commentary for what's going on. And now you're seeing the extended family. You're seeing more people coming in, seeing all the firefighters there who are just part of the thing, and they're all tanned and handsome and buff, and there we go. And now Kenji is. They're chatting with him as an equal, right? Now they're having fun with him. Now it's fine.
Pouring drinks for him, giving him food.
Yeah, exactly. But again, they realize it's not over. And then you get the revelation, and again, love this. And something that Hosoda does a couple times in this movie is we see all of them doing all this, and then the camera pans over to Wabisuke, who's not at the table, and he lets the bomb drop that he built Love Machine. And I love how Hosoda lets this moment ride, both in the terms of timing, but also in the sense that Wabisuke knows that it's not his fault, but he loves the drama of everyone thinking that he's the bad guy. And so he is revealing himself as the bad guy so that, he can say, well, but actually, I sold him off and it's all okay and all kind of stuff. And in his mind, he thinks that's cool. You know, he thinks, oh man, we're gonna run out. There's gonna be this big sense of relief, and no. Everyone realizes just how bad it's gotten. And Granny realizes how bad it's gotten. Whereupon
it's Naginata bad.
Yeah. It's Naginata bad, exactly. And she just grabs that. And what's interesting about this too is I am unclear in this scene how, for lack of a better term, how serious she is. I don't think she's actually going to stab Wabasuke, right? That's not her intent. But her intent,
she would have cut him down like easily before this moment.
Right, exactly.
You know.
So yeah, she is clearly getting his attention.
Yeah. Which here's an interesting question for you that maybe you know better than I. Post-war, there was a general turning over of weapons. Now, that's a Naginata, and it's obviously it looks a little beat. You know, it's been there a while. But would that have been one of the things to be surrendered, or was it only swords?
It was primarily swords.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was more of a symbolic thing because the samurai swords, harken to samurai culture, harkens to
Bushido
Japanese pride and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Naginata is a woman's weapon,
Okay.
and that's what women were trained on to defend the fortresses when the majority of the men were.
So it wasn't considered in the same class for surrender.
No.
Yeah. And as I understand it, even there, some swords were allowed to be kept because they were just this is the family's sword that we've had since 1638 that no one's used since then, and you can't even get out of the scabbard, whatever, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's
a shelf sitter. Don't touch it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you see here, this Naginata, as you mentioned, is old, beat up.
Because he can grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't like cut his whole fingers off. Which also it looks like it's not covered. Where she pulls it from, that thing's been sitting in this large open house all seasons with a metal blade. It's kind of amazing it's not rust colored.
And again, I think all this is symbolism, right? Here's this the symbol of our family's, power, and it's dull and old and beat up, and it doesn't even do any damage anymore, right? And he can just push it away. And that's really what's going on here. Is
the old reacting to the new.
I think part of it is that she's disappointed in him for not being the leader of the family that she wanted him to.
Absolutely.
And that's why she goes through the whole boyfriend thing,
with Natsuki,
and it's kind of like, well, who's going to take over the family? Which guy? And you notice that, and there's even the conversation where the women are the strong ones in the family. And then,
right.
Later on, as the men are pulling together to do their part, mustache guy pretty much says, "Yeah, we're pretty much always been to the side, so it's time to step up, for us to be actual men and do something." So I'm gonna crash my boat through.
Yeah, nice koi pond as he dumps it in. You just see them stand there like, what? You see a koi go through the air. I'm like, oh wow. Yeah. And I was looking at that, and he's like, oh, it's a 300-watt generator, and I'm like, no wonder why he brought all the squid. That's a squid boat. Those are lights for squid fishing.
Yep.
And I'm like, and that now makes total sense why he's like, open the top package, squid. Oh, that's delicious. That looks great. Second package, oh, more squid. That's still great. Third package, more squid. Really? Like, I got you now.
And it's so interesting to me too how with this scene. Kenji tries to reach out to Natsuki, and again, I appreciate that Natsuki doesn't scream at him or anything. She's just like, you are too much right now. Please just, not right now. And it's very much, okay, understood, fine.
It's kind of a very mature response.
Absolutely.
Where you could have made it much more dramatic for film purposes
Yep.
versus making it much more a genuine human response.
Yeah, very realistic. Kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
And then Grandma beckons from the because she heard it all. Because she always hears it all. And so,
well, there's no walls in this house. You can hear everything. Everything's sliding screen. You hear everything.
Yeah. And so she invites him to play a game. And again, symbolism, right? This is the family's game. And so now he's being invited into the family game. Yeah. But she is also clearly, like, getting a sense of him really now.
Is that a shogi board?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or a Go board, probably.
Well, she was playing. Yeah, she was playing Go at one point.
Yeah,
you saw her sitting and she
definitely
was
a Go board.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's Go pieces. Yeah.
No, Steve, that thing's haunted. It's telling you to go. Get out.
Sorry,
Brad.
For those
off topic. Sorry.
For those of you who've seen The Play That Goes Wrong, you know why I'm laughing right now. We'll get back to that later. Yeah, and again, quiet scene, simple scene, just conversation. It's also interesting to me, one of the things that kind of separates Hosoda from a lot of other anime directors is he doesn't go in for really complicated shots. A lot of his shots are just, close-ups of characters. Very, very straightforward stuff. But because of how he's pacing things, because you're not staying with these characters for long periods of time, it works. A friend of mine was talking about the Cats movie. The horrible CGI Cats movie.
Okay, yes.
The CGI, the live action movie.
Yeah. I was thinking Cat Returns. I'm no. Something wrong with that?
And he said one of the problems is when they do Memories, the song Memories in that movie, they just zoom in on the singer's face for 3.5 minutes. Ooh. And she's just singing her heart out. And it's like, it's really hard to be that engaged with a really maudlin song for that long, and just focus. And then, of course, you're looking at all the CGI the entire time. But again, because of how this is moving, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel static. It feels dynamic.
So when they start playing the game and she makes the bet with him, that was when I had a silent voice moment. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the trope. Okay, here we are. This is what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen.
Well, and when she says, you're gonna take care of Natsuki, it's like, ooh,
she's feeling it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the woman's 90. I mean,
yeah, true. And again, one of these pacing. He goes to sleep. And he wakes up, and he's not sure why he wakes up because it's still night out, but the dog's barking. But the dog always barks, but something's wrong. And again, the pacing of this whole thing is just wonderful in that there's no external sign, but something's wrong, and then you cut to this shot, and I'm going to get weepy here, of the entire family crowded around, Grandma's bed. And they come in, and they're doing what they can, and it's not working. And the movie just lets it lie. And you get one of the most gorgeous sunrises in anime.
Yeah.
Remember somebody saying about 9/11 that one of the hardest things about 9/11 is on such a beautiful day. And there's no sympathetic, thunderstorm happening at the time. No, it's just a beautiful day. And we get the revelation about the heart monitor, that he had it on his phone and it didn't go off, so he didn't know. But, and again, I appreciate that he says, but it could have been just her time, right? Like, I could have just not gotten the alert. She could have just slipped away. Who knows? And then we get one of my favorite shots in all of anime. Panning across the family.
Yeah. And that is a long pan.
It is a long pan. Everyone's almost in shadow.
Yeah.
There's just enough to differentiate everyone and not make it like too artsy. I love the little girl who's just like beating against her mom and then just kind of collapses against her. And everyone's just dealing with it as best they can. Kazuma's got his back to his mother, and she's crying, and they're just kind of processing. And we go across the morning glories, and then we get to Genji and Natsuki. Separated, you know. And what do? You know, how do you help somebody in this moment? How do you process it? And we get the hands. I've talked before about this animator who's just so good at 3D, you know, moving things together. And I believe this is one of his shots, where just the ability to see these two hands interlace in this very complicated way is just a masterclass in animation. And how it's just them sharing the moment. And there's nothing else to do. You just share the pain and do what you can. Yeah, and the clouds. Thank you, Lachonsky. Absolutely the clouds. They do a thing in this movie, just from a pure technical animation perspective. They apply morph effects to the clouds, just slightly. So the clouds are constantly moving, and they're constantly just slightly shifting in their style, basically. So there's constantly a slight just shift to them, as clouds are, and it's just enough to give it that extra level of detail. Yeah, and then we move on from there as everyone's kind of processing it. And again, I'm you get that thing. Okay, we have a busy day today because we have a funeral to prepare. And yep, that's what you got to do.
And everybody breaks into their work groups.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Leading to the argument, about what do we do about Love Machine, and the as you mentioned, John, kind of the men decide, okay, we got to do something. As you also pointed out, in traditional Japanese culture, the women take care of funerals. That is a sort of common thing, is that women are expected to kind of take care of all of those arrangements. So the men kind of don't have a lot to do. And so you see them, start to deal with all that stuff. And you get this.
It's an interesting. This is like the full day. Now it's not the morning anymore. It's the full day, and everybody's task oriented. Oh my gosh, the buns. We can't have birthday buns anymore. They ordered a funeral buns.
Yeah,
and it's just like, wow, y'all are like processing really quick.
Yeah.
Your matriarch, your leader of your clan, has just passed away, and you guys are already locked into like changing all this stuff around and making all these arrangements. It's like,
yeah. Wow. And again, I think that's him very much communicating that Grandma isn't the only one. She's passed that down to her children. Yeah. They can pull together in a crisis. And it's a good sort of throw forward to later on in the movie, where you realize, oh, they can do this, right? They do have the capacity.
Right.
And so you start building up to the thing, and you get the computer, right? The Tron computer shows up. And I love just the styrofoam.
I thought you just sold computers. Oh no, that's just brick and mortar. This is my real job. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just got a supercomputer from CERN laying around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the self-defense force guy shows up with this thing.
Classified antenna array.
It's classified, and you're just like, what?
Oh,
and then the only normal thing that really happens is Mustache Guy crashes with the boat.
And they have a thing where they hate that poor forklift.
They sure do.
Knocking the forklift over. Like, why do you hate the forklift?
I love a few things. To your point, there we go. The water splashes. Koi just.
Yeah. Koi's probably like 80 years old. Like, what are you doing? Koi's probably a national treasure.
Yeah, probably. And again, that moment where, what is it again that you do in the self-defense forces?
That's classified.
That's yeah.
Okay. But you're absolutely right, Ginger, that this is very much that everyone using that task-oriented nature to process a distraction to kind of, okay, we don't have to deal with that at the moment. We can just kind of do these things right now to kind of move through the grief. The new leader of the family, I think, is Grandma's daughter. The matriarch. She's
the one that Kenji, when he initially got there, was like, "Happy birthday on your 90th birthday," and she's like, I was like, "Oh Lord, dude, no, just shut up, kid, just shut up." Oh my God, she doesn't look 90.
Mm-hmm. What's also clever, I think, about this sequence is that as we're building up to this, big fight against Love Machine and this idea that we're going to trap Love Machine in the same way they did, you're far enough into the movie to think this might be the climax. If you're not paying attention to the progress bar, you'll be like, oh, we've been going for a while, good, this might be the climax. No. But
this is beginning of hour two.
The climatic action against Love Machine. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not after 10, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah.
Well.
But I do love the Tai Chi out in the yard with Uncle Fisherman, because it's like, wow, he's the sensei.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought he was just a squid fisherman.
Yeah. Well, and again, these large extended families, and this is where we learned that Cosmo was badly bullied as a younger kid, and larger family, somebody makes the connection, Mustache Fisher guy is like, oh, you're being bullied. I can fix that. Come with me for now.
Shaolin Kung Fu.
Right, exactly. And he may not be the best person for it, but he's the guy who's there, who takes the interest and does what needs to be done, to make sure that
Cosmo, we've seen through King Cosmo just kicks ass.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Like, he is taking lessons well.
Mm-hmm. Unlike Kenji's Happy Tree Friends avatar.
Gets totally stomped.
Also, full props to the animators. It is not easy to animate two characters frame by frame that are moving the same way. That are, these are not two, 14-year-old girl idol characters. Very different body types, and so having them move through all that and seem synchronized is well done. And they face off against Love Machine, and again, they have this whole thing of capturing him, which works for a while. But the point of this scene, I think, is to show you everyone coming together, right? That when the chips are down, the family does do what they need to do to fight him off. Until Shota decides to move all the ice out of the server room.
How did he not get the memo?
I know. Well, again, probably,
he
no
is
one wants
who
to talk
he
to
is.
Shota.
Yeah, I was gonna say. He's a special kind of fella. His heart is in the right place, but wow, his head is nowhere near where this needs to go.
But
I love when they were having the problems with containment, and they're like, "What's going on with the server?" They pull the panel off, and it's like a jet engine. I'm like, wow, yeah. I mean, you don't have air conditioning in this traditional house, so how do you cool down like industrial grade stuff without like a cold room?
Yep.
Like the ice was a good idea, but even that you're going to be melting at like a fantastic pace.
Yeah, I've been in data centers. They can get hot if you're not careful. Oh, it's just a hilarious moment.
And it's sitting on the tatami. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's like the whole damn house on fire.
And then Cosmo does a very 13-year-old kid. I forget what his age is. 13-year-old kid thing. Action, which is, I'm gonna beat him. There's still a chance. Very shonen hero. Monkey D. Luffy goes charging in. And no, it doesn't work out that way. The countdown begins. And all these little hints about the satellite start all coming together.
Yeah. Their constant coverage starts to now make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, shut up about the satellite. Who cares about the satellite?
Oh, it's gonna do what?
Yep.
Oh, but
It's gonna do
to
the
Earth.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
to the castle,
Mhm.
to the Chiba dog.
Well,
Right.
and at this point, it's just nuclear sites. At this point, it's going to drop somewhere, probably on a nuclear site. It's going to be devastation. We don't know exactly where yet. And it's bad. And this is where King Cosmo gets eaten. And you come back to the family, all spread out against the clouds, as things are bad. And this is where Steve, your point is Kenji suddenly is in the movie again.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, buddy. Come on.
And
Well, also the part we missed was when Cosmo punches his uncle.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you. Somebody was, we were all kind of waiting for somebody to take a pop at him. Cosmo.
And like none of the adults reprimand him for that.
Nope. I mean, the feeling in that room, if you're going to read the room, he is lucky that Uncle Fisherman didn't wail on him Shaolin style. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Everybody was fairly not happy with him.
That was. There we go. Dude. And to your point, John, what happens here that's interesting about Kenji is that his reaction is very solution focused. It's okay. There's a problem, but we can do a thing. I know there's a thing we can do, and he's not really reading the room. He's not paying attention to that, but he knows how important this is, and so he's trying to figure out something to do. And so Natsuki calls Wabasuke. And again, pacing. And also use of camera. How the camera is panning down. And here's where Hosoda inverts anime tropes in a wonderful way, which he's been doing throughout the movie. Where Wabasuke's in the car with his eyes blocked. Which is the classic anime trope of somebody who's hiding their emotions. Right? And he's just listening to this conversation, and then she drops the fact that Grandmom's dead, and so we pan up, and we see his reaction. And for the first time, he has no words, and he's done, and he's out of it. And we see all the people going back and forth, behind him. And we see the older lady and the boy. And what I love is it's clearly not them, right? It's not them, but it's them.
Yeah. It symbolizes him and her when he was a little boy brought into the family.
And here's where we find out about all of it. And then, I love again, as Natsuki is reading the letter, we see his sports car just peel out, and just, off he's going. And we get this again pacing, where she's reading this long letter about Wabasuke, and we get this huge long shot of just, the two of them.
Morning glories.
And realizing, holy crap, Wabasuke's been through a lot. And no wonder he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. No wonder he feels not part of the family, because he's not. At a fundamental level, he's an outsider.
Well, he is the child of the indiscretion of the grandfather of the father.
Yeah.
Which, is a lot of credit to the grandmother that she, you don't hear any indications that she treated him poorly. She is only indicating that she welcomed him in or brought him in. And you see these scenes where it's obviously she treated him like a child, not like a foreign object.
Yeah.
So, it's for Wabisuke's problematic origins, he at least got somebody who was there to
absolutely.
be with him in his journey into human adulthood.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, he had all the best experiences there. But there's clearly still that, that's still in the back of the mind. And when you think this would have been like the mid '80s when this happened, to him.
Yeah. So this isn't like the 1930s.
No.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, and of course everyone's crying. Whereupon, he's back. He definitely comes back.
After destroying the car, after hitting the forklift.
Forklift's having a bad day.
It is just having a hard time.
Yeah. Well, Tokyo Tower is the most anime. The forklift is to this movie.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and again, I love this idea that then the family comes around, and what's interesting here is now they're in a circle. When they all have this kind of last meal kind of, there's this equality around the table of they're all now on the same page, they're all now aligned, and they're all, okay, what do we do? What's the next step?
Well, they don't have their leader to sit at the head of the table and direct.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Wabisuke looked high out of his mind when he got out of the car. It's very true. And the thing is that he cannot imagine life without Granny.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And so folks start making their plan, and they do it through Koi Koi. And we build up to this climax. And here's where we get the slightly absurd anime climax, I will completely admit, where they challenge him to this. But again, I like the fact that this is built up to in the movie, but the fact that this is an AI that is built around gamification, basically, around this idea of essentially like gambling and sport and so forth. And so there is a certain sensibility to all of this thing that you can lay a bet in front of it, and there is a chance it would go, oh yeah, that's what I'm programmed to do. And so
which if it didn't, this whole plan would go right down the toilet.
And you're screwed.
And the movie ends.
Okay, make the bet. It didn't take it. Okay, we're dead.
And then
Run.
Yes.
There ain't no running.
And then you have the Digimon R War game plot twist. So this is one of the things that happened in the Digimon movie that they just kind of, oh great, lift that, drop it back down.
I liked the little forest spirit that showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, and all these folks. John Wright, you're absolutely right. I think War Games is definitely a bit of an inspiration for this movie. Shall we play a game?
Let's play Global Thermonuclear War.
How about a nice game of chess? And so they play the game. And this is the point at which Summer Wars broke Twitter. So not a lot of folks know this these days. When Summer Wars...
By the way, the two whales are John and Yoko.
Yeah, John and Yoko. You're right.
Yoko.
John Lennon and Yoko Ono. I'm like,
oh my god, I did the biggest eye roll when I saw that. I was just like,
which again, programmer joke, right? Like,
yeah.
Of course, somebody just threw that in there. When Summer Wars first aired on television, all the otaku got together and decided when Natsuki says "koi koi" at the end, let's all tweet "koi koi." And this was 2010 or something.
Okay.
Twitter was not what it is now. And they overloaded Twitter and broke Twitter for like 3 hours.
Awesome.
When this came out. So yeah, Summer Wars broke Twitter.
Nice.
That kind of became a tradition. Castle in the Sky did the same thing. They broke Twitter when that came out. But yes, and they managed to defeat Love Machine. Kinda. Sorta. In a way. But it leaves behind the present. And this is where, again, I think where the movie starts to, this is where Kenji comes into his own. This is where all the stuff we've seen building up allows Kenji to act on his own. And I appreciate the irony where he's like, no, you leave. I'm staying here to solve this problem. I'm not asking any of you to stay here and help me with this. But they do because it's who they are.
Right.
And so so we have the whole big ending, complete with poor Kenji.
He starts going mad.
He goes.
He's like he's like doing it, and his eyes are doing the whole thing.
Yeah, they're like going different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. Well, and there's a point at which he gets a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Like that's not good. And the thing about that is, and because, again, movie thing. How do you raise the stakes? This is how you do it, by the fact that he's got to do this in his head now, and that is bad.
He's overheating his supercomputer.
Yeah,
quite literally.
Mm-hmm. And it's great raising the stakes, right? Like that's what you have to do in the moment to take care of this. And he does. He manages to make it divert just enough to crash it off in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it blew up the front gate.
Right. There's a great line there somewhere. I forget the exact line. One of the kids goes, "Is it going to destroy the house?" And he's like, "That's probably the best case scenario, honey."
Yeah.
Well,
still, that front gate was like 500 years old. Replacing that,
yeah, no, it's bad.
Those little insurance tags on that front door there, right there.
Yep.
Phone call, get on the rotary phone. Hi, indemnity insurance. Did you cover satellites in that? This policy was written in 1910. They didn't have satellites.
Yeah. Speaking of, so Captain Laser Eyes, it was not a nuke; it was just a large object that hit them at high speed. The idea was that originally the satellite was going to hit a nuclear facility and cause a nuclear explosion. But this was just, a very big thing moving very, very fast. A rod from God, as it is often called in science fiction.
Well, isn't that they said that it was a solar particle collector mission?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that the satellite was supposed to drop this pod thing that was going to be returned to Earth and studied. So it's obviously aerodynamically set up to be able to re-enter, and it unfortunately just means it's a really heavy rod from God.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so we get our ending with Granny's portrait surrounded by the morning glories, and the surprisingly happy ending as everyone's running around during the funeral. Attended to by everyone in Japan.
Yeah.
I swore when I watched this the first time that was some reference to the Prime Minister showed up.
Oh, wow.
But I did not see it in this, and I've not seen any other references to it, so I was like, I just made that up. Somewhere in my mind, it's like, she's so important, the Prime Minister showed up.
Like, they sing the happy birthday at the funeral. And they do all that, and like it was kind of weird for me watching this for the first time when the mourners who are dressed in black actually showed up for the funeral. They really do look confused.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, wait a minute. This was an important woman from a really old family that fought for the Toyotomas during Sekigahara, and wait, what the hell is going on here? Why is there a crater by a gate?
Are crazy.
Why is there a boat in this koi pond? Who's not help? Why is no one helping that boy koi over there? What's going on here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of the fun things about the movie is that they're just, sitting there doing their thing, because that's kind of what this family does. They just do their thing. Yeah, and then you get all the characters showing up. You get Kazuma's father showing up, which is rather nice. And the kind of the final.
Of course, more squid on the grill.
More squid on the grill. Yep.
Squid on the babby.
You get a moment from CNN reporting on what's going on, and it's literally CNN. Like it's the CNN logo on there, so I'm assuming some cash changed hands. But for those curious, that's Wabasuke turns himself in, so he's clearly going to jail and all that kind of good stuff. And then we get the absurd anime ending of the two of them being pushed together, and the kiss, which is just, again, from movie perspective, like, it's a great.
As it was happening, I was like, dude, you're gonna miss if you do that. You're gonna miss. And he's like going, oh my god, what?
Yeah.
Are you 8? What's going on here?
You just avoided being crushed to death by an orbital object, and you can't even kiss a girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very much a thing.
Yeah.
And then the final shot of her portrait, and she's laughing now.
Which it's not a complaint, but I think it's an unnecessary thing. Is when they would present her like being serious, you never saw like her teeth. When you saw her being a little more mirthful, you got the like tropey old woman teeth, two old women teeth, like that picture. And I'm like, it doesn't detract from the film, but at the same time, I'm like, why did you even bother going there?
Yeah,
I mean,
I liked it because it kind of defangs her, right? It makes her more of just a normal old woman, right? Just it makes her feel just like any average old woman character in anime, which she's not.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like it makes me feel like she's like the old baba, you know what I mean? The old hag,
right?
Who's kind of goofy, kind of funny, and has 2 teeth. And it's like, no, she was much more than that.
She was. Well, I think that's kind of the point, is that we have a lot of relatives that we treat that way.
Right.
Right. And and I also appreciate the fact that it's cool how kind of youthful she looks. That she doesn't present as 89, if you will. In fact, a couple of people mentioned that throughout the film.
Yeah, she's not like hunched over and
prone like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shriveled, if you will.
Yeah. And you get all the animators' favorite moments from the movie, including, in case anyone didn't notice, there is some news footage in the end credits. There's some new stuff in the end credits.
I missed it.
See, they're holding hands. Ooh. Yeah. So they progress a little bit in that end credits sequence. They kind of moved along a little bit, which I kind of nice. Yeah, and then that is the end of Summer Wars.
And there it was.
But yeah, it's again, for the second feature length movie in a person's career.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. Especially given the fact.
I could have that kind of luck.
Right, exactly. It's not again. It's not a One Piece movie. It's not, there's no franchise connected to it. It's completely just this thing put together. Very impressive. All the stuff in there. A couple questions from the chat. I never understood the anime nosebleed thing. That does a thing that does happen to people, but it's very much exaggerated for comic effect in anime.
Yes.
Not really a thing. Yes, Shota does get a very Beavis look at times in the movie.
Yeah, it does.
As
are you threatening me?
So there are 2 things about that, John, about old women in anime getting so short. You see that with old men too. One is that does happen. People can lose height in old age, but also from over the course of the 20th century, every generation of Japanese, every Japanese generation gained like 4 inches in height because of nutrition.
Dang.
Yeah, and it is a clear like medical physical thing. You can see them getting in general. Yeah, that is so. Old people in Japan tend to be just physically shorter than a teenager. A full foot, I don't, well, my great-grandmother got pretty short. As she hunched over. It's probably anyway exaggerating to an extent, but yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can think of people's grandmothers when I was a kid. I met them, and I cannot think of any grandmother that was taller than like 5'2".
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would cover grandparents back to like the early part of their birth was the early part of the 20th century, and so they were shorter in general, and so I can see that.
Yeah.
A full foot.
Yeah.
Over 200 years, maybe.
True. But
of course, that means everybody 200 years ago was like 4'3".
Well, and this is one of the interesting things is that
damn little ankle biters.
Yeah. So, not about Summer Wars, but we'll bring it all back, I guess. There is a trope that people in the past were much shorter. They weren't. Houses were smaller. Because you didn't want to heat a giant house, so you kept your doors small. So things generally were not sort of human sized in that sense. But like specifically in the case of like Japan and certain other countries, there has been a marked nutrition change that caused a significant thing over time. But one of those things. But anime absolutely does this thing where great people are like 3 feet tall. It's like, okay, that's maybe a little bit over indexed, if you will. Yeah, Napoleon was not short. He was not short at all. That was a thing invented by English newspapers.
Propaganda,
absolutely. Thankfully, we don't have that anymore. But any other thoughts on Summer Wars before we move on?
Just for me being the history geek, it was just kind of fun, just kind of looking it up and just looking behind the story of the fictional Genosha clan, which was, somebody had a question down in chat land about it, if these clans were actually real in Japan, and they were, except not the Genosha clan. It was actually based off one I read, the Sonata clan. And the battle that they're talking about is the Second Battle of Ueda. And which
makes sense for their son to be playing on the Ueda High School.
Right.
Nice.
So when they're talking about the battle and they're coming up with the game plan to go up against Love Machine, and the guy and mustache guy goes off and talks about the garrison attack, and then we see when we saw the very beginning of the movie, like topographical landscape of the castle and all that.
Yeah.
That isn't actually what happened. So when Hideata Tokugawa went to invade the Sonata clan prior to the Battle of Sekigahara, they actually went against that garrison, but because of the way that the land was built and the castles around it, they could only maneuver. So it was 38,000 men against 3,500 men, not 2,000, but
wow.
They lost the battle because they couldn't maneuver all those men into such a small area. And they actually, in the battle, as the guy was describing in the anime, let them in and then close the doors, bum, 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 open up the doors, let them in, bum, 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 and kill a whole bunch of them. And
you'd think somebody would have figured that out, be like, wait a minute, they opened it up and everybody died.
Right.
Let's go in again.
Well,
no.
No, well, see, this is the hubris of it. Hidetada Tokugawa was the son of Ieyasu, who was leading the battle, who was actually at that point marching towards Sekigahara at that point. And Hidetada was supposed to meet him up there. Well, they came across the Sonata clan, who, by the way, played both sides.
Go figure that, huh?
They came, the father and one of the sons stayed at the castle to fight Hideata. And the other son joined Ieyasu to fight against Toyotomi.
Interesting.
So, and the reason why they did that was so that whoever survived would be able to keep the family, would be able to keep the land and still be the Daimyo of the land. So it was kind of neat, just kind of going,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's
That is
who
cool.
they're supposed to be. The Genoshis are supposed to be the Sonata clan,
Yeah.
and all of this. So it was kind of neat. All right, that was my little geek
Yeah,
thing.
no, that's cool. And Ueda is a real place, by the way. Like that.
Yeah.
That's a real town. It's all based on that town. Which is also cool. But yeah.
It was my second time through, and I just enjoyed. I enjoyed the ride the first time when Phil and I watched it several years ago. And then this time it was just like, yeah, it was a nice film. I would think a second time through that, given the pacing, I would have been like, okay, skip that. I already know what's going to happen here. I can just move a little forward. No, I actually was engaged enough the entire way second time through to be like, I just like this film. It's just a nice film to watch.
It's charming.
I can tell you that it was good enough or put well put together, because I was exhausted watching this movie from having worked a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
Throwing liquor around and doing my job, and then coming home and going, I got a lot of shit today. Watching it and able to like stay awake and
be focused
and go along with it. And then I was like, wow, this is really great. And did my little historical thing. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. 9:30 p.m.
Yeah. I hear that. And
Colin,
Colin,
it was really well done. Yeah.
And Colin, I'm with you. There's this interesting sort of low shading, sort of slightly flat look to Hosoda's movies, which I think works really well. Especially with Yoshiki Sadamoto's character designs, who did Evangelion. He designed the characters for this film and most of Hosoda's stuff. I think the combination of those two are really effective. Yeah, just it works. Cool.
Summer Wars.
Yeah, Summer Wars. Thumbs up. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes with some anime news and information on stuff going on. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. And hello, everyone. We are back. We are good to go. Talk about anime and such. How have your weeks been?
Busy.
Good answer.
Man, yep.
Busy, and I'm glad that I didn't wake up on fire this morning. So that's always a good thing.
Okay.
I think
agree.
all
That's
of
a
us
good
are
thing.
glad for that.
Yeah.
I'm just, I was just thinking, it's just be just one more thing
Oh.
for this past week.
Wow.
It's just kind of, just
Oh,
trying to get
yep,
to
I'm on fire.
the
again.
fire again. Time to douse myself.
Wow. Oh.
Hey,
sorry to
only
hear that.
third degree burns only over 20% of my body.
Mm.
That's we're fine.
Oh.
80% of you is still fine.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
Oh.
Wow. I'd say it's just been a normal non-fire week
Yeah.
for me. It was unfortunate that I wasn't able to meet with you guys last weekend, but I enjoyed
Yeah, I missed
watching
you.
the Pat Labor discussion,
Yeah.
which I have, as yet, I'm aware of Pat Labor. I've seen snippet bits and pieces, but I have not seen any kind of cohesive whole of Pat Labor. So you guys were totally in your element. So I would have been just sitting there going, I agree. Maybe? And in anticipation of the watching party,
Yeah.
knowing that I gotta walk dogs and their needs in and out,
Mm.
barking at stuff, I pre-watched some of the next season just to get some of the episodes out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like we discussed a little bit before. I'm waiting for all of us to sit down and watch Odd Taxi.
Okay.
Because I want to know what we're all gonna think of that. And then the Burning Comedy or whatever the heck that show is. I don't know. Waiting to see.
Yeah. I got quite a few I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah.
I think. Cool. Yeah, this anime season is packed. There's a lot of stuff I'm excited about.
Which we're not watching second seasons, any kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very happy to see How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. They've gotten a sequel. Good on them, and it's very ecchi.
Okay.
like the first season was.
Okay.
So they're not breaking any new ground, and it's nice to see the characters in their element again.
Gotcha.
So that was nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm just pulling up to see if there's any new manga I've read since last time. I don't think so. Let's see here.
More Shaman King?
No, not more Shaman King. I mentioned Amanda's Cat last time. Charming. Volume 5 of Granny Girl Hinata-chan. She's getting a little dark, but that's okay. I have been reading more of Hayao Miyazaki's latest interview book, Starting Point. So it's a collection of interviews with him, basically covering Princess Mononoke through Spirited Away. And it's basically 97 through 2008 is the range there, and obviously he's working on other stuff, later on in that, but it's kind of covering those things primarily, apparently. And I've always wondered why, since I believe that book came out like a decade or so ago in Japan, why it didn't make it over here to America, more quickly, and
Right.
I know why now.
Why?
Miyazaki says some very interesting things about 9/11.
Oh boy.
Oh, would be disappointing things that people would be like, oh, time to get the pitchforks and the torches.
Yeah, not conspiracy theories. Just. Yeah. So I suspect they waited a little while.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
I definitely was like, dude, not cool. We'll see. There's also a fair amount, too, more of his just sort of general ecological philosophy and some of his, well, we're all screwed and we're all going to be underwater in 5 years kind of stuff, where it's like, all right. Which is just, his drumbeat for the past, couple decades. So that didn't really help too much.
Well, if we all go underwater, he's still not going to retire.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
You're right, Laser Eyes. He's a very grouchy man. That's a great way of describing him.
Wow.
He is kind of anime's grouchy old man who just kind of says things. It's like, all right, Miyazaki, great. Continue making amazing films.
You're standing on your front porch and just waving that rake and screaming at the kids, "Get off my lawn!" It's this crazy old Miyazaki.
It's after 10. I can tell this story, but it doesn't. 10. He also reveals in this book about how he is the fun uncle. So when kids in his neighborhood have vacation or whatever, he'll take them out to his cabin. And they'll have he'll let them take care of stuff out there, and he'll do stuff like, and it'll be 8-10 kids and him, and he really believes in the kids should have a practical growing up experience. They should have a hands-on practical experience. So when his nephew and their friends were about 10. He brought them up and had them split firewood, and gave them a chainsaw, and let them use that. And he went off and did other stuff while they were learning the chainsaw, and they were fine.
And then he made them fight each other for lunch. What?
Oh, little Shoda just lost his pinky.
Right, exactly. He has lots of other fingers. So yeah,
it's an electric chainsaw. It's not like it's a gas chainsaw. Right. Come on. What?
Yeah. So there are a few moments like that where it's like you did what? But hey,
let's go hang out with your crazy uncle.
Uncle Miyazaki let me play with the chainsaw. Oh, did he help you play? No, I play. Look, I can do it myself. Miyazaki, there's some explaining to do.
Yeah, I played with it 3 times. It was great. Oh dear. But
you could still use that to type. You're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Haven't gotten to the end of that book yet, but curious to see what else I'll stumble across in those pages.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's interesting. Boy. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. Yeah, that's been. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Something came to mind. I've actually been watching a really fun Chinese web animation. Let me see if I can find the name of it. I can probably pull it up over here. The Journey of... Oh, what is it? One sec. It should be in my history. Because it was tons of fun. Pretty popular, too, apparently. And, of course, now that I go looking for it, I'm not going to be able to find it. Because that's how that works. But it's basically about some fighter, fantasy fighter guy who falls to Earth as a cat after some fight goes wrong and he's transformed back into a cat, and is then adopted by a 6-year-old girl and her mother, and it's basically this cat living with this little girl and her mother. And having just kind of everyday life experiences, but then every episode, he'll flash back to the awesome action sequences that he was involved in, and it's that's gonna happen, that's all gonna tie back into the story. These characters are gonna show up again, and he's gonna have to get involved in that.
As a cat.
And he's got this lovely.
It's the Overlord of the Universe come to fight you.
Yeah, I'm
young. No.
Find it. Yeah. Well,
good thing the Overlord of the Universe is allergic to cats. Oh boy.
There it is. The Legend of Luo Xiaohei is the best I can. I'm gonna actually throw that in the chat if anyone's curious about it. It's Flash animation, a webtoon. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube subbed, so you can watch subs in English, and it's really charming. It's very kind of Ghibli-esque, slice of life kind of fun stuff, with occasional action stuff. The little girl falls asleep with the cat on her like tummy, after like kissing it goodnight or whatever, and then the cat appears in front of her and morphs into Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, and it has this long conversation about, I'm actually this prince, and now that you've kissed me, now and then we smash cut to her asleep like
Nice.
So little stuff like that, really fun. Isn't all anime just Chinese cartoons? No, there's plenty of stuff made in Japan. Korean maybe. Korea you might be able to make an argument for. But yeah, so that's a cute little thing. Y'all hear that? Welcome back to the latest anime news for the week ending April 10th, 2021. Let us just jump right on in. Everybody, it's happening. It's actually happening. Fans of Macross and Robotech rejoice. Big West, Studio Nue, and Harmony Gold USA announced on Friday that they have finally come to an agreement regarding the international distribution of anime works in the Macross franchise. Oh man!
About bloody time.
No kidding.
Joke.
I'll try to explain this. The agreement will immediately allow the worldwide distribution of most Macross films and television sequels, while still affirming Harmony Gold's exclusive international rights to the 41 Macross characters and media used in the Robotech franchise. It also confirms that Big West will not oppose the Japanese release of an anticipated upcoming live-action Robotech film.
Live action.
That's been in the works for a while. The companies have also agreed to cooperate on the distribution of future Macross and Robotech projects for the benefits of both franchises. Now, it's unclear whether that means that they are just going to allow it or actually, take part in that distribution. If they're just basically saying, we will check the box allowing it to happen, or if they're going to actually press discs. We don't know yet. Robotech.com states the new agreement will allow Big West and Harmony Gold to chart a new path that will unlock the great potential of both the Macross and Robotech franchises worldwide, blah, 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 blah. For those of you not familiar with the long history behind the agreement, here is an attempt at a summary. So, Studio Nue launched Macross in 1982, huge success, working with advertising agency Big West and Studio Tatsunoko as production partners. The franchise, of course, spawned several more TV series, movies, video series, etc. In '84, Tatsunoko licensed overseas rights to the first Macross series plus Muspida and Southern Cross to Harmony Gold. Harmony Gold then edited and rewrote footage from all three of those shows into Robotech in 1985. And they literally did it in 8 months. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Robotech also inspired 2 sequels and has had 2 live-action movie picture deals signed, though neither of those have gone into production yet. Going backwards, in the late 90s, Big West filed a claim against Tatsunoko, claiming that the rights to make sequels to Macross belonged to them and not Tatsunoko. The court technically ruled in favor of Tatsunoko, saying they had the right to license Macross to Harmony Gold, but ruled that Big West retained the rights to 41 of the original designs used in the series. So as of '03, Harmony Gold held the right to make derivative works of Muspida and Southern Cross and also of Macross, except those 41 designs used in Robotech and owned by Big West. So now, after nearly 20 years, Big West will no longer contest Tatsunoko and Harmony Gold's license of these designs worldwide, and the rest of the Macross franchise will also be released to the world.
Now pop quiz, kids. No.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good pop quiz would be, and how much money did this need to be dumped in front of them to have this happen?
Yeah. And to be clear, folks have got around this. There was a release of original Macross, unedited, uncut, in North America. That happened 10 years ago or so.
Right.
So there have been exceptions and there have been ways around it, but it's been legally so complicated that everyone's just been like, no way, man, I'm just not getting involved. So I have heard scuttlebutt online that this was all about the Robotech movie. That basically, I think it's Sony, waded in and said, "You are all going to resolve this so that we can make our movie." Who knows? You children,
The fact that
stop complaining, stop arguing, make good.
I was gonna say this actually made Forbes, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I read that, was it yesterday? I think it came out yesterday, or the article.
Yeah.
And so when came up with my feed, I'm like going, just like what you had to do is rehash the whole thing. I'm like going, okay, yeah, all right. But I think you're right. It's all about the movie. I think it's all about the movie because I think they want that franchise.
Yeah.
I think they feel, Sony feels maybe that perhaps Star Wars is finally tired out.
I'd be curious to see making Macross into a live action.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the interpersonal reaction, to one another. That's people being people, but it's all the technology surrounding it that it's like, okay, we're gonna do this well? Are we gonna do this Pacific Rim kind of thing, or are we gonna do this like poorly? Like, no, don't do it terribly.
I don't know what terrible means.
Sci-Fi Channel movie of the week versus like,
well put.
Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of technological expertise. Just saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I do suspect this is one of those things where probably somebody at Sony got somebody on the line to say, "Hey, dude, just can we move this forward?" And then it moved forward from there. Like I doubt that Sony was like breathing down people's necks about this. But I think it was
Sony Goon Squad. Oh no!
Yeah, but it was probably
they're the ones with the baseball bats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And anyway,
Sony wiffle bat hurts like hell. Trust me.
And yeah, it's a live action adaptation, right? Like, it's hard to do that. You do that well. But yeah, it's well. That's the thing, Colin. I am absolutely certain that the Robotech name and brand means more in America than Macross does.
Yeah.
To the general populace.
Yeah.
So I think if you make that movie, you call it Robotech, you do not call it Macross.
That's right.
And who knows? And they did a live action version of Yamato, right? Like that's the thing that happened.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they sure did.
Oh,
did multiple movies.
Did they? With the 30-minute farewell to the dead spirit scene where he's triumphantly the only last one on the ship that's still alive to trigger the gun,
wave motion gun.
It's a patient movie. Those are movies that take their time.
The patient movie, usually the trauma ward, the coma division.
I did love how they changed the Doctor. I love the new Doctor in the live action versions. That she's great.
Okay.
But I'm curious. The other question is, okay, so we have Macross, and Macross is an odd franchise because you have original Macross, you had Macross 7, you had Macross 2, which nobody really liked, Macross 7, and then you had Macross Plus, and you have kind of a gap, and you had all that kind of impressive stuff. Then you have Macross Frontier, Macross Delta, more recent shows.
Right.
What do you release first? Like, if you have that franchise, do you go back, like, 30 years to Macross 7? Do you jump forward to Frontier, which is also kind of an anniversary project referencing other stuff? Do you jump straight to Delta, which is very recent?
Well, just, being a linear kind of, person, it would be nice to see in-universe linear release.
Sure.
So start at the beginning, and then whatever completes the storyline in a sensible way. Don't you know what I mean? Don't if you have what is the fate stay kind of thing where you have to watch certain parts of it in certain order.
And that's the problem is if they release Macross 2, that would be the next thing to do, and that was famously disliked. that it didn't quite kill the franchise, but so for those not familiar, legend has it that so what happened, and getting back to this whole Big West thing, Big West basically decided, as I understand it, to make Macross 2 without getting any of the original production staff involved. They just said, hey, we have the rights to this thing, let's just make a sequel. And it's bad. It is one of the few anime where I got partway through and decided not to watch any more of it. I didn't just, set it aside. I was like, I am done. I am not coming back to this.
Wow.
No.
So you rage quit.
I basically rage quitted it.
Wow.
And in fairness, it wasn't horrible. It was just like, I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about any of the plot. This is all just incredibly uninteresting.
So it didn't really effectively build on all the groundwork from Macross itself?
Not really. No.
Oh, jeez.
The characters, the new main characters are twerp. The woman that he gets involved with, the space woman he gets involved with, is just generic sort of. Oh, I'm a mysterious woman from space. To be clear, there are folks who like Macross 2, and I can understand liking Macross 2. It's one of those things where it's just all of these pieces were just like no, but it's okay. And apparently, Shoji Kawamori was so pissed off at Macross 2, he said, I'm going to show you how to make a Macross. And he made Macross Plus. And Macross Plus was him giving the finger to Big West to make a real Macross thing. And that's why we have Macross Plus. So Macross 2 may be one of those things where everyone's like, we'll get to this later. Not now. I don't know. It's tough. But then, of course, Macross Plus has definitely been released quite a bit. So I don't know if you jump to something that has a good amount of franchise recognition. I don't know.
I mean, I would hope by now that Macross itself has enough franchise recognition that people would still gravitate towards it. But it's kind of. I like releases of things that are in a process that I can follow the storyline better versus jumping around.
I don't think Do You Remember Love has had an official release over here. Has it? Has Macross Do You Remember Love, like the original movie? Has that
well, they chopped it. They chopped it down to something called Clash of the Bionics.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still like a good 85% of the film. Okay. I mean, it's cut for length and it's cut for content. But I don't know that the unedited original Japanese theater release.
I'm looking up on Wikipedia. It looks like it has not. There was Carl Machek said he had planned to release it but was unable to do so. Then there was the various versions. There was Toho commissioned a dub of Do You Remember Love in the late 80s. And apparently was released somewhere. But
Canada.
Yeah. And it might have been, and it was named Super Space Fortress Macross in Japan, so it may have been like a Japanese release with an English dub. Wow.
Interesting.
And then Clash of the Bionoids by Celebrity Home Entertainment.
Yeah. I have that on VHS, and I would not recommend it. Sorry.
The head of Animego said he wanted to, but couldn't. Said the rights were just too complicated. There was a UK release in the 90s on video, home videos of VHS, and then there's a Swedish release with a Swedish dub. You can get that. Wow.
I would almost want to watch.
Yeah,
that
absolutely. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, so that's it. That's what you do first.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
So, yeah. But that's not all the news, folks. We're just getting started. We got some Macross. We got some other stuff. We got some animation news, which is pretty cool. If you or anyone you know is hoping to work in the anime industry, another opportunity has opened up as of this week. Studio Pinocchio opened applications this week for its new animator training program. The Principles of Animation Program, or PPAP for short, aims to train young animators to work on feature-length animated films. No academic record or prior experience is required to apply. People of any nationality are welcome as long as they can communicate in Japanese. Wow.
Dang.
Yeah. The year-long program includes a guaranteed contract of employment and a monthly remuneration. And a system has been established to hire animators as full-time employees after the training period ends. Pretty cool. Along with the training program, Pinocchio is also looking to hire graduates as full-time employees in production assistants and in between animator roles. The studio says they believe the current animation industry is faced with a chronic shortage of creators. Although Japanese hand-drawn animation is increasingly popular all over the world, there are not enough skilled creators to keep up with all the number of new animated works. Raising new skilled creators is necessary for the entire industry, and Pinocchio is concerned if the industry takes too long to cultivate that new talent, it'll cause problems with training and with capital. Studio Pinocchio was founded back in 2015 by Yoshiaki Nishimura, producer of The Tale of Princess Kaguya, and when Marnie was there, and also employs other former Studio Ghibli animators.
Interesting.
Yeah. Would you do it?
I mean, I can speak Japanese, like 3 or 4 words of it. Does that count?
Right.
Like,
It
can I
just
do that?
says communicates in Japanese. That's all it said.
Yeah, it didn't say good
Nani?
Japanese or like fluent Japanese. Oh, sure. I think the greater problem is I can't draw to save my life.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what you're there for. They're going to train you to draw, right? Like,
Oh, I'm pretty sure I'm untrainable. I'm like, Flippy the idiot seal. I'm pretty much untrainable.
This is another interesting.
But I
question
would
about-
if I could.
Yeah.
I would if I could.
They don't mention in here if they have any facilities. Because I know a lot of these training programs, like they'll have dorms, they'll have options for you. So even if you're not getting paid, massive amounts, you're being taken care of, basically.
Right.
So I don't know how much this is, and where that fits with that.
They've got a 53-foot trailer out back with a single rotating fan and mats on the floor. That's it. You animators go and live in there.
Fans, luxury.
I was gonna say they're gonna put us up in a castle in
my day.
Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep dreaming that one, Steve. 3 square meals a day of the finest foods you can ask for living in an old cat. No.
No. Yeah.
Cup ramen if you're lucky.
Yeah. But yeah, be curious to see where that goes, to see how well they're able to fill out those ranks. Hope it works out for them.
Well, I mean, is this? I mean, not that I'm saying it's not legit,
Mm-hmm.
but are they looking at a dearth of animators? Is that is this not a thing that people want to do, and so they're running out of people to do it?
Basically. Well, the industry doesn't pay enough to attract a large talent pool.
Right.
Enough to attract, a significant talent pool, but not enough to have people banging down their doors, and that's a problem.
Well, does that mean that you get to demand higher wages then if there's fewer of you, and you could say, hey, if you want to animate all these things, I'm the only person in town, so you better pay me more?
Well, just remember, unions are weak in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're not.
There's no animator union that I know of in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds like that might need to be a thing that happens then.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah,
because it'll be more like a Shin-Chan with the episode where he demands something, and then the next cuts to him standing in the corner sulking. It's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's sad.
And well, it's also the issue that I forget who it was in the anime industry who talked about this. He said the problem is there is no Mr. Moneybags, right? There's no person with massive amounts of money who's hoarding it, laughing hysterically, and not letting the poor animators get paid. The budgets are small.
Right.
The budgets are small because this is part of this whole budget for this whole process, franchising this thing, and that is a certain size. And the publisher only has a certain amount of scale because this manga is selling great, but we don't have $10 billion to put into it. So it's like there's no real easy valve to pull to increase everyone's salaries by 50%.
So basically, the industry doesn't have a very good actual producer, and what they need to probably do is get away from the committee setup and go into an actual like movie production roles, and actually have people to be producers who are not necessarily, by the way, money bags, but they are the people who have access to the people who do have money.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other. And you're absolutely right. The issue of the production committee is that everyone's on the production committee, including the person who has the money. So it's like, well, if they're the ones who we're going to for the money, we can't just suddenly pull somebody else in with more money unless they want that person. So it's I think that's a really important restriction on everything. As opposed to a producer who can say, hey, I'm this awesome, I'm Tusk. Kevin Smith had this crazy dumb idea for a movie about a guy who goes and agrees to free rent in exchange for getting dressed up as a walrus once a month. And
I think I remember you
horror
telling
movie.
about that.
Yeah. And people would just show up and say, "Here's money. We're a production company. Here's money. We want to see if you make this. Like this is just we want this is popcorn for us. Like here's cash." And that's the kind of thing you can do when it is an auteur person who can attract talent. And if he doesn't have enough money, he can just go out and find other people who will bring in the cash. Yeah.
You're not beholden to Mazda to provide funding, where you might be able, production-wise, be like Mazda, Toyota, and Suzuki will all throw money in. Okay, gotcha.
So, it's tough. It's a thing. Yeah, and if Colin's absolutely right. If animators in Japan got paid like animators in America, we'd have less anime. Like that is
there's the point.
The current economics of it. Like, we'll see. But the good news is, there's a lot being done. Folks are aware of the problem. Folks are, addressing it and trying to make steps. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Moving on to happier and kind of more world recordy news. Takao Saito's Golgo 13 manga is no stranger to setting records, already being the oldest manga still in publication, and the second best-selling manga series in history, after, of course, One Piece. This week, the Hitman series is coming for another record, having officially tied with Osamu Akamoto's Kochikame manga in the Guinness World Record for, quote, most volumes published for a single manga series, end quote. Kochikame's 200th and final compiled book volume was released in September 2016, and Golgo 13's 200th compiled volume shipped on Monday. And considering Golgo 13 is still ongoing, you might just hear news of it breaking that record in the near future. The manga has been running continuously since it began in 1968.
Yep.
It had its first ever hiatus in the summer of 2020 due to COVID-19, and even that break was for a whole 2 months. The story has been heading towards its conclusion for the past 5 years.
Wow.
And Saito commented back in 2013 that because he often worried about his manga getting canceled, he has an ending planned out, even down to the panel layout, but somehow a sudden cancellation seems unlikely after running for 52 years. The manga has inspired 2 live-action films, an anime film, an OVA, TV anime series, and 6 video games.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the anime film for Golgo 13 is one of the first anime movies to actually use CGI.
Oh, cool.
It's horrible. It's a product of its time. But when I rented it from Errol's,
of course, yep,
back in the day, a local video cassette chain,
home video, animator, internet.
Errol's,
okay,
yeah, and the big deal was, you get to see CGI for computer-generated graphics for the first time. It was literally like 8-bit helicopter, like flying around on a white screen around a golden building. It was really just blocks, and it's just like it was a video game. Like something was shooting at it, so the block was like, ding, 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 ding,
Brum,
ding.
brum, 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 brum,
Yeah.
brum, brum. Oh, it's Space Invaders.
And
No.
it lasted, I think, like 3 minutes.
Wow.
I think.
That's
if I remember
commitment.
correctly.
That's commitment to a thing.
And the thing of it was is it went from the animation and it cutscene to the CGI, and then after the one little loop it did around the building and shoot at it, it cut back to the anime.
Awesome.
Breakdown.
Yeah.
A breakthrough of technology.
Yeah. We've come a long way. Oh.
That Apple Mac 2 did some heroic work there.
The TRS-80, as it sounds like.
Oh, baby. Now don't start breaking out the Trash 80. We don't want to wow people here.
No kidding. I own books on how to program the Trash 80. Boy, that was a time.
I had the learn it on cassette how to program
Yeah.
the Trash 80.
No, that's one of the books that absolutely. Yep. Is it sitting there? Let's see if I can pull it up. Anyway,
well, no, this one it was a cassette recorder.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you hooked it into
Yeah.
the Trash 80 and
Absolutely.
played the
Yeah.
cassette,
Played cassette,
and then
yep.
it instructed you on the computer.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I have
Absolutely.
no idea how that.
My older brother had one of those. He had a Trash 80 with the cassette and all that. And he could program them. That was
My basic programming skills.
Yes. Basic
Back in the
A,
day.
GW Basic.
Basic.
Great
Go
times.
to a
10,
B,
run,
10.
go to Toad. Yeah.
Yep. Moving on to Gundam news. Gundam's been doing a few things recently. If you ever built a plastic model kit, you know that once you punched out all the usable pieces, and hopefully not lost any, there's still a lot of plastic left over in the form of the runners, those frames that hold all the actual components of the model. After more than 700 million Gunpla kits have been sold since their inception.
Wow.
Yeah.
700 million.
700 million.
Wow.
Bandai decided that they might need a solution to keep from throwing away all that plastic in the future. This week, the company announced the new Gunpla recycling project, where all those excess runners can be collected and recycled into more usable plastic. Gunpla recycling boxes are being installed in Namco game centers across Japan, where model builders can deposit the leftover runners. 3 different methods of recycling will then be used on the plastic, as depicted on the flow chart. Yep, the flow chart down there. There's chemical recycling, where the polystyrene plastic will be broken down into raw materials for new plastic. Mechanical recycling, where they're basically crushed into granules for reforming, which is how the Gunpla is actually, how those kits are actually, they're all granules that are then like injection molded.
Pelletized plastic stuff, yeah.
And then thermal recycling, where they basically, anything that can't be processed those ways is burned for heat and energy, producing electricity. The new recycling boxes have already been installed at Namco locations in Kawasaki and Osaka, and Bandai plans to have them in all approximately 190 locations in Japan in the near future.
Which of course begs the question: is what number is all the runner material? Is it 1, 2, 4,
it's
5?
I believe it's custom. Like they have their own plastic that they use. I mean, I'm sure I say custom. I don't think it is like 1, 2, or 5, but it is like an industrial plastic that they use. That it's standard, but not like. It
makes me, wonder all the models I built as a kid. It's like, gosh, I mean, throwing the box out, just tons of the runners. I'm like, it never even occurred to me. It's like, the paperboard box, that's easy. You can just put it in the paper or cardboard recycling. But the runners, I just threw in the trash because I didn't know what to do with it. Absolutely.
Like, you have how many ounces do you think is one of those a Gunpla's worth of runners? Let's say maybe 6 ounces.
Yeah, I'd say go that one. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
because it's usually like at least 6 frames worth of parts, if not more, depending on how the size of the Gundam.
So if I have my math correctly, they have sold approximately 262 million pounds of runners.
Wow!
Over the past 50 years, whatever it's been.
That's still a lot of plastic. That's presumably in landfills. Yep. I mean, I don't know whether it was. That'd be a good question too. It's like for Japan, would that be a burnable, or would that be just a trash item?
Yeah. According to my calculations, that's 131,000 tons of plastic just for the runners.
That's a lot of petrochemicals.
A lot of petrochemicals. It very much is. And again, you get the thing. If you recycle them, you can actually make use of them, right? Like it's not just okay, they'll degrade eventually. Then they're not part of the whole process. And especially like the master grades. Like you got 12 runners in those things. Like they're crazy. Wow. But yeah, they use
and that pelletized plastics and stuff. I mean, they're used for all kinds of industrial forms and moldings and stuff like that. So it doesn't even, that has a greater applicability just beyond even making new.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
You can make new chairs for stuff and seats and all kinds of other jazz.
Yeah.
So.
And thank you, Chauncey. It's an industrial polymer. They use about 4 major polymer types, it sounds like.
Damn.
Wow. There's a really cool video on YouTube. It's a behind the scenes of the Gunpla factory.
Ooh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and I think it's produced by Bondi, and it just kind of, video footage of them. It's like 20 minutes long or something, and you see the various designers who are designing it and the robots that go around. It's an entirely automated facility for the actual production of the Gunpla. It's really cool, and
so it's like the old How's It Made series done for
yes,
Gunpla.
Exactly. It all looks like a Federation base because, of course, everyone wears Federation uniforms as their work outfit, work uniform. It's amazing. And John, that's a very good question. How many mothers will go, oh, good, it's recyclable, and just toss the entire Gunpla into the recycling bin?
Or toss the spare parts or the extra parts stuff for the different version of the model that you're like, I should hold on.
That's my B-Max.
You're like, no. The booster pack. Where was the booster pack? It was in the box. Oh, I recycled it, honey.
What did you do?
And that's the tough thing because
I have no mother.
Yeah. They don't sell those accessories separately.
Yeah, they're in the box. Yeah. Oh my God.
Fortunately, Gunpla is not that expensive. Also this week, just news items to mention in passing. The JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean manga is getting an anime adaptation. This is the 6th part of the JoJo manga. It originally ran from 1999 to 2003, and it follows Jolene, the daughter of the protagonist from the 3rd story arc. TV anime is in the work on the sci-fi spy manga Tesla Note, written in part by Tiger and Bunny's Masafumi Nishida. So it's exciting. Kazuyoshi Takeda's World War II manga Pelelu Guernica of Paradise ended this week, which also revealed it's getting an anime adaptation as well as a new spin-off manga. The story takes place during World War II's Battle of Pelelu between the U.S. and Japan and follows a Japanese soldier who wants to make manga.
Pelelu was a horrible meat grinder. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like Shigeru Mizuki.
Yeah.
Story.
Wow. I really want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to see how that's treated. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I do not know if the manga is available in English, if it's been scanlated or whatever, but man.
Yeah.
So that is, again, it is Pelelu Guernica of Paradise.
Yeah, wow.
TV anime series is also in the works for the romantic comedy manga A Couple of Cuckoos, which will premiere in 2022. I've seen this recommended a lot to me on Amazon, so I think it's kind of making the rounds.
Okay.
It's a romantic comedy about high schoolers Nagi and Erika who learned that they were accidentally switched at birth, and their parents have decided to fix the error by having them marry each other.
That totally makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Absolutely, that's how that works. George Asakura's ballet manga, Dance Dance Danseur, is also inspiring a TV anime, which is his first TV anime adaptation. Film production companies Sparkling and Storytelling have launched a new magical girl theme project, currently titled, and I love this, Untitled Magical Girl, tentative. The plan is to use what they describe as the Chronicle of Magical Girls as a starting point to portray the image of young girls in their youth as reflected in the magical girls of that era. and will depict the struggles of magical girls who pursue their own ideals rather than the values created by others.
Did they have an attorney write this? That says
Yeah.
absolutely nothing,
Well, no,
and yet is a big sentence.
It does to me that it's about it's the lens of girls exploring their futures through the values of magical girls series in different eras. So how are 80s magical girls different from 90s magical girls, different from 2000s magical girls? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm intrigued.
Well, it'll be coming up on a watch party, I'm sure, sometime
sometime.
at a
Yeah.
anime archaeology near you.
Yes. The artwork, they did release key art for it, and they're clearly kind of evoking the costume styles as opposed to the character designs, right? So they have various magical girls that kind of have different costume variations, but not trying to make it like a 90s girl, a 2000s girl, an 80s girl, right? So
a valley girl meets a yuppie girl. Tired.
Exactly. A collaboration was announced between the upcoming Detective Conan Scarlet Bullet film and the web anime Black Channel. There'll be 2 anime premiering on April 14th and 16th, so this coming up week, titled What Happens If I Become a Great Detective and What Happens If I Become a Sharpshooter. So presumably kind of them imagining each other's universes. I'm not aware of a crossover with Detective Conan since Lupin, so who knows if it's going in that direction. Finally, a tribute exhibition opened in New York's Philippe Le Bon Gallery on Thursday, dedicated to acclaimed manga artist Katsuhiro Otomo. The exhibition showcases original artwork by Otomo plus illustrations from 29 international artists, paying homage to the Akira manga. It is titled Good for Health, Bad for Education, a tribute to Otomo. And if you haven't heard of the Philippe Le Bon Gallery, no surprise, this is the gallery's inaugural exhibit.
Nice.
So they're doing some of that.
Obviously, they're open despite the
exactly.
COVID issues.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And finally, this is in the wrong place. 1 second. Let me just shift this around, and we'll be there. I forgot that I didn't have that down there because I really need to show you this. It is worth seeing. My goodness, people, decisions were made. Things happened.
Hopefully, good decisions, right?
Well,
Please?
decisions.
Did they involve fire?
No, but they
Did they wake up on fire?
Yeah. No, but they do involve Evangelion. Electroids this week launched what else? An Evangelion Unit 01 USB charger. You can buy a Evangelion bust.
Yes.
That you plug into your computer.
I saw
has
that
USB
thing.
ports on it.
Yes.
And of course,
I want it.
It lights up.
I must have this. More money that I don't have to spend on.
Yep.
But
Does it talk?
Not that I'm aware of.
Damn.
It has 3 USB-C and 3 full-size USB Type A plugs on there, and so you can plug in to Unit 1 yourself.
If it's the right size and you could fit something like a Raspberry Pi in there, you could make that just a Evangelion CPU. Product opportunity, Brent. Product opportunity. Get into the ground floor.
Of all the companies I don't want to try to get licensing for, Gainax is near the top. Or Studio Kara now, I suppose, which wouldn't be quite
fair enough, I guess.
And John says, now the question is, does it only last 5 minutes when it's unplugged? That's a good.
Probably.
Good. Yeah. That's all the news for this week. Thanks all for watching.
Sweet.
Is it back? Yeah, it's back.
The head.
Definitely there. Mine's there. The Chonsky, I own a lot of wall scrolls. 15, maybe?
wow.
I can show you the collection if you'd like. I have it in a thing.
In a wall scroll holder.
I do. Precisely.
Handmade?
Yes. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, we. Ugh. Oh, there's even one for little scrolls on the side.
Now, I can't hear anything right now. There we go. Okay.
Shh, don't say what you said about Brent.
So this is
I like the side pocket. That's really cool with the scrolls.
Yeah.
That's for the small ones.
Nice.
And then this is for all of them. And it's just, just wood, and it's on rollers, because everything in a workshop should be on rollers. Should be on wheels. So I've got...
What's the largest scroll? Is that one that's flapping? That one?
Yeah, this is the Studio Ghibli, the Totoro one.
Oh.
It's landscape, so that's just why it's...
I was going to say, it looks giant.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's just...
Oh.
Yeah, so that's a nice one. But it's basically just a portrait one landscape.
Right.
In scale. So I've got Dirty Pear, Evangelion. And actually, the Evangelion one's broken.
Oh. What happened?
Just the
String broke?
yeah, the clasp on there broke. So I just need
Oh.
to there's the clip. Just need to fix that.
Duct tape. Every good workshop needs duct
Oh
tape.
yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
The small
17,
ones in
18.
front.
So 18 total.
Wow.
Yeah, not too bad. They're not expensive, right? They're $20, $25 on Amazon.
Right.
I'm sure they're all completely legitimate releases from the official parent companies.
Sure. Hey, what you buy at a con,
exactly.
is
Stays on YouTube.
for sale at a con.
Right.
How many people actually go in there asking that? Is this an officially licensed product?
Yeah. And if you're curious about these small ones, so I've
Is
got,
this $5 JoJo's Adventure statue really genuine? Yeah.
I will admit,
Nice.
I bought this one without checking the size listing on Amazon. I thought this was a full-size wall scroll and did not realize it is actually like 10 by 18. But oh well, it's nice.
It's very convenient to hang.
Yeah, exactly.
Tiny.
And the other one is, I think this is very obscure. This is actually custom. This is by an artist who does a series of pieces, and he just had this at a con, and I was like, yes, I'm owning that now.
Is that a fox girl?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
And again, this is one of those this is why I like to go to artist alleys, because this was like $25.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I know how much it costs to make these things.
Right.
Like, not in any detail. But he's like, yeah, it's fine. Gosh.
Wow.
Let me see. Do I have a favorite scroll? Honestly, it might be the Evangelion one. I love the artwork in the Evangelion one, which I will show you guys again real quick.
My favorite scroll is the Secret of the Drunken Master move scroll, where it shows you how to do all the moves.
The only scroll I have is
And I do know this is a
actual
Sadamoto
Koi one.
piece, but
Yeah.
you guys have seen this before.
Oh,
Eva characters in casual wear.
huh.
Love that. And it's just, I also like the expressions. Just hanging out.
I like the fact that Ray's about to punch Shinji in the head. She got her fist balled up. Stop punching yourself, Shinji. Stop punching yourself.
Yeah.
Stop punching yourself.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Colin. Gun Parade March.
Of course.
Glad you enjoyed that. What'd you think of the scene with the Buddhist mantra? How did that hit, Colin? I'm curious.
How far in is that?
Halfway, 2/3 through.
So I'm episode 1.
Yeah.
I have not gotten far
Put it
enough.
this way: there is a point at which one of the characters starts reciting a Buddhist mantra over and over to himself in his to survive.
Wow.
It's a fascinating scene. You're welcome, Wachowski. What other wall scrolls should I get? I shouldn't ask the internet that.
It's after 10. You might get various answers.
Peter Grill.
Interesting choice.
Legend of the no.
Overfield.
Yeah, no.
Ishizoku reviewers.
By the way, I heard that another
Season 2?
manga by that same guy is getting an anime adaptation.
Ooh.
And apparently it's another kind of ecchi-esque thing.
It's all going to be nothing but shogi.
Probably.
Actually, in all seriousness, you should probably get a because I can't imagine it wouldn't be beautiful. Ms. Hosokai.
Ooh, yeah. Good
Yeah.
call. Miss Hokusai. Let's just check real quick. Yep, you're right. I need to do that. Yep, that's good. What I love
Absolutely.
when you do this is you get Miss Hokusai anime fabric wall scroll. Blue Exorcist anime wall scroll.
Oh.
Like what? Why did that connect in? And then the 10th one is anime lewd bikini waifu wall scroll. Thank you, internet. I appreciate that. When I think Hokusai, I think lewd bikini waifu.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Eurocamp wall scroll?
Oh, good call. Good call.
Nice.
I can think of it's like imagery in my mind where like they're looking at Fujiyama.
Yep.
And it's like the girls are sort of in silhouette and like,
What
oof.
the hell?
Oh, that would be good. What?
That actually is that. That's surprisingly.
Oh God, what?
The fourth result is the two main characters of Eurocamp in their underwear as a wall scroll.
Rin and Nadeshko?
Yep, Rin and Desko in their underwear. As
Oh,
a wall
boy.
scroll. Because that's what I think when I think of camping out in winter. You know, out in the middle of nowhere. Is that
The sad thing is that will be over somebody's bed.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because merchandising.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot. Granted, again, I'm sure 2/3 of these are somebody just grabbing it and throwing it on a wall scroll.
Mhm.
There's a this one is apologies everyone, we're getting off on a tangent here.
Anime tangent though.
Yeah, anime
right?
tangent. I really like this one. Because it's not obviously laid back camp in an odd way.
It's not on Buri. Okay. It's Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
But it's just a nice image.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. Just ride on a train, chilling.
Is that Aoi?
Yeah.
That's one of their friends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh. I'm not super stoked that it's got 2018 on it.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing. That's fine, but
Yeah.
I'd rather have the timelessness of no date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
I'm scrolling down. There's probably somebody who has used their Photoshop skills. Surreptitiously. I don't know. Wow. Yeah. No. Good call. I got to sell them wall scrolls somehow.
I was gonna say, you got Miss Hokusai and you got Eurocamp.
Unfortunately,
Wow.
Captain Laser Eyes, I cannot show you the wall scrolls you searched because I may scroll to something that YouTube doesn't like, and
Right.
I don't know. I can't tell what YouTube will YouTube algorithm give it and take it away.
YouTube is such a fickle mistress.
It is indeed. Wow. Yeah. There's one. Moving right along.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Kino's Journey. That motorcycle's not supposed to look like
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah. Actually, Kino's Journey. That's another good call.
I just say things sometimes and they mean stuff.
The problem's going to be finding Kino's
Better than
Journey
most
stuff
days where I
that's-
say stuff and nobody notices.
The problem's going to be finding Kino's Journey stuff that is more from the old series than the new.
Right.
Or just, I guess, the novels. That's fine. And yeah, wow. It's not the motorcycle, but it's definitely Kino.
Oh, God. Thank you,
Wow.
Internet.
Thank you, Internet. Absolutely.
Awesome.
But yeah, get some stuff. London Biori season 3 ended last week. That's true.
Yes, I know.
What do you think of the likelihood of a season 4? Do you feel like the franchise has gotten to a point? I don't mean never, but I mean like soon.
Well, without any spoilers,
Mm-hmm.
there has been a passage of time.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's not a core passage of time because I think you still could get another season out of this. It's the way it's progressing chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd still have the main core of the cast.
Okay.
So I certainly think there's nothing holding them back from a season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven knows I'd watch it.
Sure.
Every damn minute I'd watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is how you're going to run out of time. People are going to move on in their lives.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So how far do you take this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to strike when the iron's hot.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing. If you did like a Simpsons kind of thing with it, it would get tired quick because you've got no progression. Here you have a sense of passage of time. But you always have that sense of the passage of time. So it's like you can't just pretend Renge is like 7 forever.
Yeah.
She's getting older. She's moving to the next grade. All the girls are moving to the next grade. It's like, so, yeah, I desperately want to see a season 4. And I think it totally would work.
Yeah.
But I think you probably won't have a season 8.
Sure. Yeah. And it's always that question of, at what point has it... do we talk about the Roger Corman, there will never be a Carnosaur 4 quote?
Wasn't aware there was a Carnosaur 2 and 3.
Well, I think it was Carnosaur. So right after Jurassic Park came out, Roger Corman made, I think it was Carnosaur, which was basically Jurassic Park for, 1/100th the budget.
Okay.
And it made, if this was their budget, it made this much money. And so they made Carnosaur 2, and the budget was like this, and they made this much money. And they made Carnosaur 3, and it made this much money. And he said, okay, that's it. We're good. We made our money. There will never be a Carnosaur 4. We've seen the clear trend. We're not going to be able to recover from that. And I wonder if Nana Biori is getting to that point where it's like, can we, are we going to be able to make enough money to get it back to recoup the investment on a next season? Like, where are we right now?
Well, I think the way it's slice of life, you don't have like these great impactful,
right,
shattering moments. So its entire point and purpose is the beauty of its progression and just the yeah. Oh God, Nana Biori meets Evangelion. Yeah. No. But you know what I mean? It's like Eurocamp. You could do Eurocamp forever because it is just so beautiful the way that it is, just the way it presents. So I think what you're going to end up with is you'll see it move to OVAs, and you might see more of that movie track because then you can arrest the chronology. You can have them all be in school at this point in time, and now it's summertime. We're going to get on the train. And some adventure happens while you're on the train with all the girls. And that's a whole contained OVA. It's completely out of the chronology of the series.
They'll go on vacation or something. Yeah.
They're going to go visit Hotaru, moved from Tokyo. They're going to go visit her aunt in Hokkaido. You know what I mean? It's like you could do stuff with that, and then that way you don't mess around with, well, shouldn't the girls be like 28 by now? So I think you've got a lot of still potential in that, and because it is the joy of the slice of life and seeing their living, daily what they're doing.
It's also,
I think you get some mileage on it.
It's also interesting because Nana Biori has kind of survived, in a sense, and that it is a slice of life series that's still ongoing. And so it feels like it has legs in that sense, where I feel for a lot of like Tenchi's a good example, where they were like, okay, we kind of had our run, let's let life fallow for 5-10 years for a while and then spin back up. But this doesn't feel like the right time for Non-Biori. It feels like, it doesn't really need to pause for a while.
Right.
You can just keep on chugging with it. Yeah.
Well, and like I said about it's fall. At least mentally, it falls in the same sort of camp as Eurocamp.
Yeah.
That it's not something that it is. Again, there's not so many monumental moments in it that you have a hard time, keeping up that kind of momentum.
Yeah.
Last season here, we got to watch the girls in Eurocamp ride in a car around the Izu Peninsula and visiting various geo spots.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, it's like, God, we've all been on car trips, and it's like, ugh. But no, it's just so entirely relaxing. It's just so entirely engaging to be like, look at them. They're going on an adventure. They're doing stuff, and it's, what I mean? It's like
the Dutch goes to sleep, but the rest of them are on an adventure.
But you know what I mean? It's like they wake her up and like, oh, we already went camping. We're home. And it's like, that's just a hilarious little moment.
Right.
That is just so genuinely natural that it just feels good to watch it.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I think there should be more time on those. I hope there's more time.
Yeah. Well, like we were saying the other, before, Eurocamp is tied to the season in which it airs.
Yeah.
And so the assumption is they're doing basically one every year. So we have, an autumn one, and then, a full year later, a winter one, and then a spring year. So that kind of makes sense.
But that seems more seasonal chronology than it does character chronology. Because nobody really particularly, they're in the outdoor club. But I don't think they particularly focus on, hey, we're second years. We got to, we're doing some other thing. Yeah. Oh, no, we've got these exams coming up. No, it kind of brushes by a lot of that. So it's not entirely focused on, we're only going to have a little bit of time more to do this. Reen kind of has always had her scooter license. Nadeshko talks about wanting it, but there's not like, hey, you're finally, ha, age, now you have it. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's kind of, that's left in the mist, so you can just enjoy the experience. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think you're right. And question in the chat. 16 volumes so far from Non-Biori. And according to Wikipedia, 16 volumes total. According to Wikipedia, that is the final volume of Non-Biori. So, which doesn't mean the anime, the anime can go do whatever they want. So, fortunately, that's not a restriction there. 16 volumes, though. Wow.
There's a lot that goes on in that little town.
What's crazy is,
Seekers can take on Gogol 13.
Yeah, exactly. That is from 2009 to 2021, so a little over a decade for that one.
2009? Wow.
Yeah. Let me talk about something I like.
Was it anime?
Oh, it's anime. Boy, if any of you are familiar with this, I will be stunned and thrilled.
Did you? It just rang a bell. Did you ever hear any of the Monty Python audio albums where they sing the song about "I like traffic lights"?
No.
Oh, dang it. Okay. Well, we'll another time. Another time. It's fun.
All right. Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner, where I talk about an anime that I happen to love. And this is Handmade May. I'm not quite sure why I love Handmade May. I will try to explain right now, but it is definitely one of those anime that came to me at just the right time. It is the story of a young man who comes into possession of a little android girl, a cyber doll named May, and the various adventures they have, and the harem he collects over time, of course, because this is early 2000s anime, and that is a thing that happens. And boy, is this an early 2000s anime. The art style, the approach to everything is very much that. And I'm just going to check here real quick on the exact date this came out. It was 2000. Yeah, the year 2000.
Yep.
And it is a goofy harem comedy. That is the thing that it is. It is fun and silly and energetic as this young man is dealing with this little android maid who's trying to clean up his house. And she's very diligent and very, does all the things. It turns out that basically he... I can't tell you. But basically, all these all these androids start showing up, and you start getting all of these various plot lines involving them and what's going on. Now, what attracts me to Handmaid May? First, very easy to watch, right? This is the Doritos of anime. Just start munching, you'll be fine. Little Maid falls in love with him immediately, of course. And then various other cyber dolls show up, of course. And wackiness ensues. See if I can give you a image of some of them. There is some... there's a loli, because of course.
Naturally.
Naturally. And one of the things that attracts to me is that there's a fair number of anime in-jokes in it. At least I think they're anime in-jokes. One of the girls shows up and you see various shadows of girls on a wall saying, did you know she's going to show up and she's going to, make herself visible to this guy, whatever. Very much like Revolutionary Girl Utena. When the little girl shows up, she has the power over electricity, and it often shows shots of like buzzing power lines. Very much like Lane. Again, don't know. But there are a lot of little things like that sort of scattered throughout the anime series where, reference or not, it's just kind of fun. It also does a fine job of just being fun and cute and light until suddenly it's not. I don't want to get into spoilers. One of the great things about Handmaid May that kind of blew me away is that the theme of the show is about spending time with somebody you care about and making memories with that person. And then the finale makes that a very big, serious, dramatic element where the character's actions and future life and ability to exist in the future is tied to that very thing. It also drives to that point, and characters do things that can be quite sad, and the series doesn't shy away from that. They let those things happen and let the characters deal with the consequences of those things. And I was very impressed that the show is willing to do that for a very light, silly, goofy, year 2000 comedy. So full disclosure there. That said, again, the vast majority of this show is ridiculous, silly, goofy comedy. It is, very easy to watch, very, very much that. And just, it's 12 episodes, totally fine. Don't watch the sequel. Just don't bother. They tried, and they didn't go anywhere. But they tried and failed. To be clear, like, when I say they failed, they started making an OVA and stopped. Like, they got partway through the OVA and then just abandoned it, basically, as I understand it. It's that bad, or it went that poorly. But I was really, again, it charred my socks off most of the series, and then the ending is actually an ending. Like, they actually tie together the themes of this silly little show and execute on that in a real dramatic way. To give you a genuinely touching ending. And, hats off and applause to that. Where at the end I felt, dramatically a little bit fraught, but hopeful, like positive, right? Upbeat ending when all is said and done. So that is Handmaid May. Those are my thoughts on that, and I hope you're able to stumble across it and enjoy it too. So has anyone heard of Handmaid May? That's my next question.
Watched it and
No.
adored it.
Yay! There we go.
But then I
Nice.
also watched Chobits and Frame Arms Girls.
Mhm. Yep.
So I love the Persicom little kind of thingamahoober. And when I ran across Handmaid May, I'm like, oh, this is, here we go.
Yep.
You know, you think about it, one of the Persicoms in Chobits is a little Handmaid May sized Persicom. So I was like, hey, here I am. I enjoyed it a lot.
There we go.
I did not see the OVA though.
Yeah. Nope.
Like 28 minutes of whatever from 2001.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is episode 1 of the OVA, and that's all they made. Yeah.
Wow.
I watched it, and it's just, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, and these characters show up and talk for 20 minutes. That's the end. It's like
It's exposition.
it's not even well. Bad memories. It's just very blah. It doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, but one of those little things kind of you stumble across. And like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
History. We have history? Oh yeah, there's
We
a
do
lot
have
of history
history.
this week. Yeah, it's a historical week. Let's do some history. Welcome to This Week in Anime History, where I talk about things that happened this week in anime history. Starting out with April 7th, 1979, the premiere of the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime series.
It's a Gundam.
Wow.
Hugely influential. The inventor of the real robot subgenre of mecha anime, and arguably the first anime series that felt like a single cohesive story written all the way through. Yamato might claim that as well, but I think Gundam just holds together a little bit more cohesively than Yamato does. And there's just a lot to Gundam. The characters are very detailed. It was innovative. In a lot of ways, and really pushed things forward and spawned an absurdly massive franchise. Gundam
merch.
And the merch, all the merch,
Hundreds of millions of merch.
Jeez, that thing just does not stop.
Which has now spawned a recycling effort.
Exactly, which you can now recycle, and so everything comes around. It works perfectly.
Make more merch.
And make more merch. And then fast forward a few years. This was also the week that Attack on Titan premiered in Japan. April 7th, 2013. Almost 8 years ago now. Attack on Titan premiered in Japan. I was actually in Japan around the time of Attack on Titan coming out. And boy, were they pushing that hard. You walked into Gamers and they had full-size posters like hanging on the walls advertising it. And I knew it was that because like on the posters in Akihabara, they had in English Attack on Titan on the official Japanese posters. So there would be no confusion for anyone watching this that this thing was coming out and you all should watch it.
And I got in like 3 episodes and then I was like,
Oh, same here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for me, but that's fine.
Did they have any pop-up cafes for Attack on
I'm
Titan?
sure they did.
I'm sure they were rife with them.
No question. If Ginger is still in the chat, I'm wondering if she's aware of any pop-up cafes. And then finally, must be mentioned, sad but worth mentioning, is also the anniversary of the passing of Isao Takahata, legendary anime director of Grave of the Fireflies, Tale of Princess Kaguya, My Name is the Yamada's Pampoko, Horse Prince of the Sun, and many, many other great works of anime, passed away 3 years ago now, and is greatly missed.
Time it does move on.
It sure does.
Sad.
Yep, but worth remembering.
Yeah.
One of the saddest moments of this, and we won't dwell on it, but there's there's a photograph when he passed of Miyazaki and Suzuki standing next to each other, and Suzuki's just got Miyazaki's got his eyes in his hands, and Suzuki is just full on crying, and just you never see those guys break, and seeing them just that was tough. And the Attack on Titan manga ended, I believe, but they have like spin-off things I think going now. That is a franchise that's Naruto now. That's not gonna just stop.
Yeah. They're gonna have an Attack on Titan cooking show like they did for the Fate franchise. They're gonna do like whole thing.
The Great Titan Cooking Show.
Exactly.
Great Titan Bake Off.
How to cook for humans. How to cook 40 humans.
Yeah.
Oh no! What?
It's a cookbook.
Classic reference. Thank you.
So speaking of, I don't think I told you this. A couple weeks ago, I was in a hotel. Long story, but turned on the TV late at night, like 2 a.m. And I was watching, it switched over to the Sci-Fi Channel, and they were showing this really incredibly pretentious black and white short film. And it was this like Civil War soldier who was like about to be hanged, and all black and white, and then like they shoot him, but like he falls off into the water on the bridge he's on, and he's swimming off, and it's all like there's no dialogue, and I'm like, this Sci-Fi Channel, you've fallen so low. This is just so done. It's the Oxbow incident. Like we all know that's what you're doing here. It's the Oxbow incident. They've been doing this for a long time, and and sure enough, like he reunites and he's actually being hanged, and then Rod Serling's voice comes on. And I realized I've been watching an episode of The Twilight Zone the entire time. I was like, it's actually
2 a.m. 2 a.m. at a strange hotel, and Brent accidentally tunes into a Twilight Zone episode. Ooh, that's a Twilight Zone episode in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. That's true. It is pronounced Siffy, I guess. I don't know.
Siffy?
Siffy. But yeah, and props to Sci-Fi Channel for still showing the Twilight Zone. Like,
Well, didn't they? They were the ones that did the Twilight Zone marathon.
Yeah,
New Year's Day marathon or something.
They do that every year, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Again, good for them.
When I cut cable, I don't get that anymore.
Yeah, me neither. But I have not watched Sci-Fi Channel like regular programming for a very, very long time.
Yeah. I kind of sort of miss cable.
So,
I don't miss the cable bill.
Yeah.
So I was among my many Roku channels that I have now, and I forget which service it was on.
Pluto.
And no, actually, it was not on Pluto. Actually, it was HBO Max, I think.
Oh yeah.
And
well, aren't we?
It was and I watched it, and I was just like, wow, this first episode did not age well. And I know we've talked about it, and I know it's one of those things where you intellectually know it's not going to age well, but you just want to watch it anyway. It's the first episode of Babylon 5.
Oh.
And
I love that show, but yeah, it has not aged well.
But it does not age well. I talk about, I mean, the CGI at the time was great, but now you're just like, oh, that's cute.
You
still
tried.
better than Go-Go. It's still better than Go-Go.
Yeah, sure.
But I was watching it, and I was just like going, wow. The actor who plays, not Sheridan, the other one, is so stiff. And you're just like, and like there were Sinclair, that's it, And there were moments where I was just like, wait a minute, am I watching a soap opera? Because it just felt like there were moments where he looks at the moon and he's just like, it was all ruse, or something like that. And I was just like, oh God, I don't remember this being awful. Why?
Yeah.
And then it got into the cool parts, and I was like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah. No, like season 1 of Babylon 5 is rough with a capital R. There's some brilliance there too, but there's a lot you push through. I'll never forget the creator of Babylon 5 said, one thing we will never do is a Monster of the Week on Babylon 5. It's going to be political, it's going to be like the long overarching storylines and so forth.
Yeah.
I think episode 8 is a Monster of the Week story.
Yeah.
Like it's straight up, super soldier, serum gets injected in him, he goes berserk all across the station. It's like,
Yeah.
And he later said, that was my plan. And then at some point it's like, we got to write a script. All right, we're going to have to do the thing.
Sponsors want content now. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that was the thing for Babylon 5 that when I watched that first season, it's like some of it could get very wordy.
Yeah.
And in a very similar fashion, I stopped paying as much attention to Deep Space Nine because Deep Space Nine got very wordy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I just, I want to see things explode. I want to see stuff happen.
I want to see explosion. People bursting out of airlocks.
Well, that's what I like about Babylon 5 is that it would have wordy episodes. And have wordy sequences, but it usually was able to bounce its way back, whereas DS9 would have wordy seasons.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and again, great stuff going on, but just
There were times for DS9 where I was just like, I think I skipped season 3. I don't think I watched any of season 3. But Babylon 5, I just wondered, like for the first season, I was just like sure that it would be canceled because it was just some of it was awesome, but other episodes were just like, so the Vorlons and the Narn and the are doing this. Do you think so? Well, yes, I do. Don't fall out of the airlock. Okay.
And lest we forget, name a network television series non-soap opera that had an ongoing plot before B5. I can think of precisely one.
Committee? No. No. Welcome back, Cotter. That's obviously the answer every single time.
Definitely the one. Twin Peaks, I think, is the only one that had an ongoing plot, but they were writing the script, really, literally back then, of how to do that. Yeah, it's crazy when you look back and that just wasn't the thing. Nobody did that. BSG was after Babylon 5. Like the new Battlestar Galactica. The old Battlestar Galactica did have things would. So, and folks don't know this. The original Battlestar Galactica from 1980 did have a plot. Like things would happen, and they would refer back to, we came across this thing 5 episodes ago that mentioned this thing. But it was
it had Lauren Green.
It had Lauren Green, absolutely. One of the reasons it got made was because they had a named actor.
Yeah.
But it was 99.99% episodic. Like it's technically there was stuff there, but
Well, basically that was just like, Cylons invaded. We're gonna have to make our way to Earth. In between that, we're gonna have the Spider People episode. We're gonna have the Neanderthal People episode.
The cowboy episode.
The cowboy. Oh God, yes.
Cylon cowboy.
Oh boy! Wackiness ensued.
I unironically love and respect the original Battlestar Galactica series, and it is cheesy as hell. It's one of those. It is both of those things, absolutely.
But it had Rick Springfield too.
Oh.
For all of 10 minutes.
Okay.
He showed up.
He was the one who gets killed first.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
He's the little brother of Starbuck.
Apollo.
Apollo, yeah.
Oh.
Wow, Rick Springfield. Wow.
And he's like 17.
So Anna just walks into your room and says Rick Springfield.
Yeah, exactly, John Ryan. Everyone's inside. Let's go to the casino world and have a party. That's literally episode 2. Yeah. Very weird.
You gotta let your hair down after death.
One moment. 1 second. I'm hoping. 1 second.
Uh-oh. It's Brent's classic toy collection of Battlestar Galactica toys. Oh!
I do.
worth $1 trillion.
One of my most treasured possessions.
Oh.
Battlestar Galactica, the novelization.
Oh,
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
I haven't seen that. I had a copy and I lost it.
Wow.
And I actually had the Marvel comic book too.
Volume 1 of 900, or
I don't think you can read that. The greatest space epic ever is the actual title down there.
they're not overselling that or anything.
And I read this as a kid. It is legitimately enjoyable, but it is basically like the first 2 episodes just smashed together into a book. But yeah, and it's this is actual thing written by Glenn Larson and Robert Thurston, who sounds like a pseudonym.
Thurston Howell III?
Yeah, probably.
Wait a minute. Wasn't he on the SS Minnow?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a minute.
Wow, boy, this is old book smell.
It's not disintegrating yet, though, is it?
No, it certainly has not. Yeah, no, and you got, of course, the back has all of your 70s cavalcade of stars on there. But this was great fun. This is a really fun. And yeah, Galactica 1980 with the Galactica 1980.
No, as it is said in Chatling, we will not speak of it.
Where Sherlock Holmes, Jeremy Brett.
Wow.
Oh.
Sherlock Holmes, the 90s Sherlock Holmes is the villain of Galactica 1980. Yep, that's a thing. And you have the genius space children.
Yep.
Plotline. That is a thing.
Genius space.
Yes.
Yeah,
giant brain
genius
space children who tell them what to do.
Wait a minute. Did they recycle the aliens from the Cage?
Yeah. It feels like it.
Kind of weird heads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh boy, they made choices. And they made like 6 episodes of that thing. Gosh.
Well.
No good ideas. But that was where they got the idea for the ending of the remake.
Wow.
The very controversial ending of the remake is essentially Galactica 1980. So that's what you have to thank for that. I am
Hollywood, where no idea ever goes undone.
Exactly. Did you know John Williams was contractually required, or was sent to the recording of the theme to Battlestar Galactica? There was a pending lawsuit from 20th Century Fox because Battlestar Galactica they thought was going to be a Star Wars ripoff. And so they stipulated that the theme to Battlestar Galactica could not sound too much like the Star Wars theme.
Wow.
And so they had John Williams attend the recording session to ensure that. And apparently John Williams was like, come on, all right, come on. And he sat and was like, that's fine. Like, what am I doing here?
I have things to compose. Indiana Jones, damn it, man.
Which actually he probably was around that time.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Weird. But I have a question for you all.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
Perfect.
I should have had a goblet sitting there and see if it reverberated just perfect, pitch perfect.
Yeah. I have learned that Go-Go 13 will always be with us, one way or another. I've also learned not to mention Galactica 1980, because just why? Sorry, Colin just said space as a concept is property of Lucasfilm. I mean, pretty much.
The paperwork's pending.
Yeah, exactly. I also learned that money is always a factor.
Yes.
Yep. How about you guys?
I learned finally Macross is getting released from its jail.
Mm-hmm.
That after all these years, big West and everybody else involved, Harmony Gold. Hooray!
Yep.
This will be a probably at this stage of the game, not a game changer.
Yeah.
You know, if it had been like 30 years ago, I think it would have been a far better deal. But
well, that's an interesting point. Like, the next Macross project can go international.
Yes, it can.
So they might push that a lot bigger than they would have otherwise.
But we've got, you know what I mean? It's like, again, 30 years ago, if this had happened, wow, you could have just steamrolled so much stuff.
Yeah.
But so many other things are going on outside of the Macross universe that you're going to have mad respect for it. You're going to have people who are going to want to see things. They're going to want to, you know, get into that. But is it going to generate the same thing as Kimetsu no Yaiba?
Sure.
Are you going to get a Mugen Train kind of everybody turning towards that, being like, yeah, Demon Slayer, that's awesome? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I think you've got the respectable, you know, depth of the Macross universe that you can get people to get along with it. But it's just it's not going to change the playing field.
Oh, sure. Yeah, certainly not.
But I'm still, yay!
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see high-res versions of all that stuff.
Yeah. And now I can get all kinds of like great merch, you know, not directly from Japan. It'll be in America because it's all what am I kidding?
No.
What am I kidding? There'll be more Robotech merch though. That'll be kind of funky.
Yep.
I'll definitely bring that up in the merch department.
Steve, how about you?
Steve?
I guess I learned something this week. Or today, tonight, whatever. Where am I?
Yeah.
Who's talking?
Your name is Steve.
But I need my pills. I thought I was in the Forest of Arden. Sorry. So I've learned that if you have the adult in the room, that Robotech and Macross can actually go somewhere. So I've also learned that my family is not well connected or large enough to provide a supercomputer in a 500 plus year old castle. Nor do I have an uncle who's going to drive a fishing boat through the gate, or another uncle who's going to. I just don't have any of that. That's I just learned that's just not anything that's going to happen. So if there was going to be a supercomputer problem, my family would not be the ones.
But at least you're not on fire.
But I'm not on fire, and that's always a good. That's always a win because you know it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. Fire hurts.
Poetic, beautiful words. Being on fire.
I have literally nothing to add. Thank you all for watching. Next week, we will be doing the seasonal anime watching party. Stop by the Discord for a link to that on Saturday. We'll be watching all of the episode 1s of the new season. See you then. We're talking about that on Saturday evening. Take care, all. See you.
See ya.
Johnny.